Everybody here is awesome, and we're live right here on the Rustbelt Mechanic, and we've got the captain here.
What's up?
We've got Mr. Dow in the house right there.
What's up, guys?
And Mr. JRC54. What's happening, guys?
Right down there.
A whole bunch.
Not a whole bunch. Why not a whole bunch?
I'm trying to relax today.
Yeah, no relaxing. You went to bed at 5 yesterday.
It's been a busy couple of weeks for me.
That's overrated.
Yeah. He's been busy using those icon tools.
There we go.
Oh, man. And answering questions, trying to fix the household stuff. Our swamp cooler started leaking on the roof, so I had to jump up there and fix that this morning. I had to run to the shop. I was a busy bee this morning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what's up? Honda guy in here. Michigan mechanic. Sorry to hear you're a mechanic in Michigan. Gosh, what a place. It's almost as bad as being a mechanic in Chicago. Oh.
It's the worst around here.
Just about all that crazy rustiness everywhere.
Yeah.
We're a new 68 Epic a couple weeks ago. Heck yeah. Dude, I love my Epic. I put the video out this last week on updates and answering questions from, all the incoming people that have come in and haven't seen my toolbox tour, answering all those and answering all the haters that are all, you don't need a goddamn toolbox that size.
I think that was a great video.
Yep. Just telling the people they need to suck it up and enjoy it.
Yep. Michigan Mechanic says bolts just need a little more Uggas up there.
Yeah, they need a lot more Uggas up here. A lot more. So, we're getting people rolling on into the stream here, and we are going to be talking tonight about tool truck good stuff.
You're hooked on wire right there.
Hold on, I'm trying to figure this out here. Mechanic can figure this out. We're going to be talking about tool trucks tonight, trying to get some perspective from a couple of guys here in the industry who have been on a tool truck, I'd say probably once or twice in their life, at least, and see some input from you guys on what kind of things you like about the tool trucks, what things that you don't like about them. Then we're going to talk about, kind of how they work to some of the newer techs that are out there. Some of the things that you have to watch out for that they are, they like to prey on some mechanics in some points. It's, just like they're normal people. They aren't always great people. Most of them are, but a lot of those tool truck guys, there's still some shiesty ones out there. Thankfully, we have a pretty good one. I don't know about you guys. Do you guys have pretty good tool guys?
Yeah, my tool guys are great.
We're gonna have to do some saying of names here, dude. We're gonna have to be
raise your hand.
Raise your hand if you want to talk.
I see Junks in the chat here. I'm surprised he's up from last night. 5-hour live stream.
Yeah.
I will venture to say maybe it would be a good idea for Kyle to select a person to answer the question and then have somebody else come back with the follow-up.
We will be able to do that one. That's no problem. If I win the lotto, I would buy myself a full Snap-on setup, but 10 gear wrench ones for kids going to school. There you go.
That's why that junk for work guy, he's a stand-up guy.
He's an all right guy. He's all right. Except for he hates a gear wrench, evidently. God, them gear wrench things. I'm just saying that video that, if you guys haven't seen it, that video that he just put out, I give him that one 5 stars. That one made my night. It was a pretty good one.
I've yet to watch it. I've been busy.
It was good. It was really, really good. So, yeah, talking about tool trucks tonight. At our shop, primarily the tool truck that you guys are seeing me do a lot. What's up, Client Graphics? We have Snap-on that is at our shop primarily. We've had Snap-on there is our pretty much has been the only really regular tool truck, and that's one of the biggest things that I personally look for in looking at a tool truck that comes to the shop. We've had Matco here over the last year or so that's been coming to our shop, and it's been nice to get a little bit of a variety, but we don't have any other ones like Mac or Cornwell or Gear Wrench. We're in, BFE, so, there's not a whole lot of, big time clients or anything around here that they're selling tools to. What's up, JC Smith? Good to see you in here tonight. So what kind of tool trucks do you guys have, Jim?
we got Snapon, we had Mako, and we got Cornwell. Probably within the last maybe 9 months, 10 months. Really been digging the Cornwell truck, but the Mako guy used to come there, and he was one of those guys that, you know, just the shyster, and, you know, those guys usually don't make it. Those tool truck guys don't stay coming to the shop.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I wean them out.
What kind of tool trucks do you have, Dow?
Currently, we have two. We have the Matco tool truck and the gear wrench tool truck. To be honest, to give you an idea of longevity, I would say for the last 6 or 7 years, we've had consistently a Matco truck who has missed maybe one occasional week throughout the year, and that depends if he's going to one of those tool conventions, but he's been the only one that's consistently showed up for the most part. We lost Snap-on, backwards tire, Snap-on again, and then our Cornwell rep decided to dip off and go gear wrench as of about a year and a half ago, or 2 years now. Has it been 2 years? Anyways, he's full-time gear wrench independent tool distributor now.
Heck yeah. Like you said, the biggest thing that I look for in going out onto these trucks is having a guy who is responsible and somebody who actually shows up the days that they're supposed to show up, at least on that day. Mm-hmm. If I can expect him always Thursday between 3:30 and 5 o'clock is when he's always there. So it's very nice having him on a schedule. On top of that, if I ever break something or need something like really like right freaking now, I can call him at any time and he will say, yeah, I'm in the area. I'll be passing through sometime later today, or the early the next morning before I even get to the shop, he's got that new tool or that fixed one dropped off at my shop for me.
Yep.
So I don't have to wait more than 24 hours for any kind of tool or any kind of fix if I ever need it on the spot. I don't like to, have him on call, just make him, no, come here right now all the time, don't like to burn bridges or anything, but it is nice in that aspect. So let's talk about some of the positive things to the tool trucks and what you guys like most. We'll say, let's do top three things that you absolutely love about the tool trucks. We'll start with Mr. Dow this time.
One would be obviously delivery. So that makes accessibility of tools really simple for me. I don't have to go anywhere. They show up. I think everyone can agree to that. Two would be sometimes the expedient factor, because if it is a once a week thing, it might take me the betterment of a week and a half to ship it out through mail if I bought it on Amazon than it would be for me just to wait for them to show back up. And in some cases, if you're really good and you're real close and tight knit with your tool guy, you can call them on the fly during the week, and maybe it only takes a couple of days. He drops by, switches it out because he knows, hey, this is my go-to guy. I like this guy. He keeps buying from me. He's supporting me. I want to support him. He's in trouble. I'm on the way. Fucking Superman to the rescue,
Yeah.
The third thing I'd say would be new technology, because they're usually the first ones to be able to show new technology, things that you wouldn't normally see on a day-to-day. And the next thing you know, they come back from a tool show, they've got new tech right in front of you.
Heck yeah. What about you, Jim?
I'd have to say my three things is obviously, the warranty factor, but I like dealing with one person. You buy tools online, you buy them from the store, whatever, you try to warranty something at the store, and, the cashier behind the desk wants to give you a problem about it, or you're standing in line waiting. I don't really have a whole lot of time to be waiting warranties for tools. And like Dal said, you could just make a phone call. Sometimes they'll just stop at your shop when it's not their day, or you could meet them somewhere if they're in the area, so you get the tool quicker. And so that just means dealing with one person instead of, a laundry list of people, or sending it out online is better. And then I'd probably have to say, some of the new technology that comes out, you're able to see it on the truck. You can mess around with it. Some of those tools, like in the stores, you can't necessarily open it up and touch it and feel it and put the battery on it if it's a cordless tool or something like that. I'm in good with my guys, so a lot of times I can try it out for a week before I even buy it. If I like it, I can buy it. If not, don't have to worry about returning it to a store and talking about the box is open. Do you have your receipt and all that stuff? And then online, half the time buying tools online, sometimes you don't even know remember where you get them from. So who am I sending this back to? You know, that's if you buy on Amazon or eBay, wherever you get your tools from. And then I'd probably say the last one would have to be the financing. You know, sometimes you don't want to just, you know, the tools I buy are sometimes $800, $1,000 tools, you know, and sometimes I don't want to spend all that at once, you know, whether it's been a slow month or whatever. So just, I can make payments on it. You know, I don't want to give up all the money at once. Guys that can is great. You know, sometimes it's good for me, but I'd rather just pay a little bit here and there, have the tool pay for itself over time. Within a week or two, you made enough money on that tool, the tool is basically paid for itself.
That's very, very true. All those points are very, very on point. There's a couple things I wanted to go back through. We got a $5 donation from, I didn't see the name, Tariq Shrek. So thank you for that one tonight. I haven't seen him in the chat before, so thank you for stopping in tonight.
Good job pronouncing that too.
Hey,
I saw it come through
here.
and I was like,
Rustbelt's great at pronouncing those last names.
We tried on that one as much as we possibly.
Ron's the one who hacks them up.
Yeah, it happens. It helps.
I'm here for comic relief only.
Somebody asked, what tool truck can you guys haggle with the most? Personally, I'm going to have to say the Snapon one is so-so, only because the guy who runs our Snapon route, and this is the only thing that I don't like about our Snapon guy, is that he is not the one that owns the truck.
He's not watching, is he?
Nah, whatever. It doesn't matter. He doesn't own the truck. He works for a guy who has like 3 or 4 different routes. So he doesn't have the flexibility to make those big decisions or a lot of the decisions for that one, because he's only got a small chunk of the pie to work with, you know, that he is pretty much making. He doesn't want to cut out his boss's cut. You know, he's not gonna take that one. So he's very limited on what he can do. The Matco guy, he'll pretty much meet me on whatever amount I'm at. But I've been doing this for a long time, so I know usually the amount at which their bending and breaking point is. So when I'm haggling with them, I like cutting to the chase. I don't like going this like back and forth banter with them over and over again. So I will go in and I'll say, you know, it's $100 tool. It's brand new. I know that on the especially brand new tools, they're not going to be haggling that much. I'll say, like, you know what, $85, it's sold. And, you know, that gives him a little bit. I know it's marked up 30-40% for what they're doing. So he's still making a little bit of change, and, you know, it's good that way. That's on stuff that's on the truck. Now, when it comes to special order items, stuff that isn't normally in stock on the truck, there's not going to be as much haggle and wiggle room, because they do have to special order that one. When they have stuff that's on the truck, they're usually purchasing that stuff in bulk quantities, so they get more of a discount and there's more haggle room. So I already know that usually when I have to order something, I'm going to be paying pretty close to the normal price on that, especially if I'm asking him to order it and put faith in me to actually buy it when he brings it in off his truck. Because there's been all kinds of horror stories from what I've heard of guys ordering these specialty tools, and then when they finally come in 2-3 weeks later, they just say, oh, I don't need it anymore. I bought it cheaper on Amazon. And then they're stuck with that specialty tool right there. So, you know, I feel bad for them in those circumstances. It kind of sucks on that one. So what do you think? Do you like about the truck the most?
For me, it's, you know, being a newer technician and not having a lot of the stuff, it's actually, you know, it's nice to go on the trucks and actually see what is even out there for a mechanic. There's a lot of tools that are on the trucks that I either A, have not used, or B, don't know anything about them. And having that, having those tools there to where you can look at them, look at all the parts to them, figure out what's going on with them, and they're going to have the knowledge and everything to tell you what exactly it's, you know, it's made for and what it's best used for. So that's one thing that I like.
So Chris M.
The other thing that I guess the second thing I would say I like is, again, like Jim said, it's financing. You know, not everybody has the money to, even if it's something that's a couple $100. Not everybody has the amount, you know, the money available to just drop on a new tool like that. So having the ability to pay a tool truck or pay a Snapon fee through their credit line or whatever, that's helpful for the person who can't just drop $200, $300, $400 on a tool.
That's true.
And the third thing I guess I would say is, and this goes back to what other people in the chat were saying, is dealing with one person. Granted, you can find the cheaper tools online. You can, warranty them through Harbor Freight, or if you get tools through them, but having the guy come to you, having a warranty, and that guy, and you develop a kind of a working relationship with that sales guy. If you're good to him, he's going to be good to you, and he'll help you out as much as he can, within his limits. So having that working relationship with him also helps with, getting tools that you need, or even getting something replaced on the fly if you have to.
I agree. Yeah, that's a very good point on that one. Getting things replaced when it needs to is definitely something that I think is one of the most important things to it, along with the point of truck accounts. Truck accounts are the biggest thing that has helped technicians to be able to afford the tools that we're doing, to be able to afford the inflation and crazy amounts that a lot of these things are costing anymore, that we have to work on these vehicles. It sucks having to have all these tools, so having that availability is pretty nice for that one. So another one of the questions that I had come through a while back was, when you're on the truck and you're looking to make some purchases, me personally, I don't like it to be a, ooh, look at that, it's something shiny kind of thing, even though I am every once in a while. I like to plan things out. Like, I've really been looking at a nice set of ball end Allens, hex bits or whatever, for a long time. I've been looking to wait at least on when those are going to come for sale, or see a good sale item on that. So I look for that. But when it comes to the promotional items that are on the tool trucks these days, how much are you guys swayed on buying some of these sets or anything when they're, when they're actually a promotional item, like the pub or something like, oh, if you buy this, you get a 1 in 5 chance to win this pizza. On that one, do you guys get swayed easier if there's promotional items like t-shirts or Snap-on gear or Matco gear or anything? What about you, Jim?
So most of the tools I buy, like if it's a socket or a ratchet, obviously I have those, so I'll only buy those when it's on a promo, so like Snap-on's running a promo. I dig the promos a lot, and that's really what I shop for. This tools in the hot tool magazines and all that stuff, that's really what I'm going for, especially when it's like a hand tool or not a specialty tool, something that obviously someone in my point in my career, I'm going to have that tool, maybe just upgrade it to Snap-on, or it's a better design or a newer design. So yeah, I the guys that run those promos and stuff, I love that. That's what I look for. That's what I shop off of. That's where you find me on the truck. As far as anything else, I get on the truck and, like those wireless lights, something shiny and new, I do impulsive buys too. But most of the time when I get on that truck, I know what I want for that week. Most of the time I know what I'm paying them for that week. I know where I'm at. I try to keep things, keep your cool when you're on that truck. And, unless there is a promo or something nifty on there that I got to pick up.
He likes the nifties. He likes the nifties. What about you, Dow?
Obviously I do enjoy a good catalog flip through during lunch or when they pull up. I will say that I do like skimming through it and see what I think is a hot buy, if there's anything that I absolutely need. But I think to answer two questions at once, the guy I haggle with the most is my gear wrench rep. And the reason is because of Amazon pricing. I'm like, come on, man, you didn't pay that for that. I'm not paying you that for that. Come on, you're going to work with me, man. I spent thousands upon $1,000. You got to do something. He's like, all right. Well, look, for you, I'm going to give it to you just above cost. So it's like maybe like you said, an acceptable cost would be about, 20% above cost, 15%, maybe 25%, depending on the tool. Like the fridge. I could have bought a fridge from Home Depot for probably under $200, but I chose to buy the one from him for $300. And it had a sick graphic on it. I'm like, dude, I'm sold on the graphic itself. And he felt bad that he couldn't get the size that I wanted, so he gave me the bigger size, and he didn't charge me the extra added cost for the bigger size. It's just all in the relationship that you have with your tool guy. So to answer two questions at once, Do I like looking at promo items? Yeah, because that's exactly how I bought that fridge. Do I like the tool guy? Absolutely, but more so my gear wrench rep because I already know what he's selling, and so does he. You know.
That is true, especially when you've got the cross promotion between a lot of the tool trucks. That's cool to see him. You know, oh, he brought out like ours. He will do even like firearms at certain points of the month. Like, hey, you know, you buy one of these sets, it's like a 1 in 10 chance so it's going to win. You know, an AR or you know, a Smith and Wesson or an MP, something like that. They run that quite often on our truck too, which is another one of those great things about living in BFE, Ohio. They do that one, but yeah.
You know, I got to mention something. Go back to what Dow was saying about haggling. You know, anybody that goes on a tool truck or buys tools off a tool truck, you know, if you're not haggling that guy, you know, it's, I mean, that's the whole point of a tool truck too. I mean, there's probably not a time, whether it's, you know, I tell them, hey, I'll do a cash deal on this, you know, skip the taxes, or, you know, what do you got on this? Can you do this price? Even if it's knocking off $5, I mean, all that's in the price. You know, their finance charges are in the price of that tool. You know, they're making money. You know, if you're not haggling price, I'd haggle every single price every time. Or I'll do a bundle. Like, hey, what does it take for me to get this for this price? If I spend $200 on the truck, could I get this for $75 as opposed to $100 or $90, whatever it is?
Now, how often are you able to do that haggling a little bit more if you're not using the Snap-on credit, not using the truck account? Just say, hey, I got cash in my hand, because they're able to, you know, bypass a lot of those extra charges and fees that they have to do for using that. When you got cash in hand, man, cash is king. It really is, especially in the tool world.
Yeah, I mean, I do it pretty much every time. There's probably not a time on there that, you know, I'm haggling something or other. Or, you know, I'll tell them, hey, I'll buy this tool next week. If, you know, next week when you hit the promo or something, you know, you give me an extra set of sockets for this amount. And then the whole taxes thing. If you got the cash, I mean, it's different from, you know, making payments on a tool and then being able to just pay a tool in cash because you're getting it for a deal. But, you know, I never really, it's not like I'm on the truck with Amazon on my phone, shopping off Amazon, telling them, well, I see it on Amazon for this much. You know, I know that they got to make a profit. I know they got to make money. I know I could get the tool for cheaper, but they got to be willing to work with me. And a guy like me, obviously, I'm buying tools. So that most of the time they're going to give me a deal. I mean, if you're going down there, you're just shopping around, you're not buying tools, chances are they're going to give you a deal on a tool. You're buying, you know, one a month or one every 2 months off them. They're not going to give you a deal as if you're buying tools, you know, every week off them and, you know, paying them every week. You'll get more of a deal the more business you do with them.
Now, I wanted to give a thumbs up to JC Smith. He just brought it up in chat. His channel just hit 20,000 subs. Big, you know, congrats to you, buddy. You know, he does an awesome job. If you ever want to learn to do any kind of haggling on vehicles or how you do any kind of promotional things and talking on how you sell trucks and cars, that guy's channel, he is the epitome of the perfect person to haggle with vehicles. He's straightforward, deadline. I love how he works. He's got a pretty good channel. Everyday fleet tech in the house.
I'm laughing because somebody said you ain't gonna make a living off of $9.99 bucket of tools. But we were told way back when the best mechanics that we know can get shit done with 2 duffel bags and a 5-gallon bucket.
Yep, that was one of my very first hagglers on my channel. He would comment that all the time. You guys got these giant boxes. Best mechanic I ever knew came in with 2 duffel bags and a 5-gallon bucket. He can fix anything.
Yep.
I bet.
All you need is a 10-millimeter socket.
Yep. Legit. That's all he could do.
So I gotta ask something with you guys. Obviously, you know, there's only a couple people in my shops, and we all go on the truck. But I mean, like Kyle, at your shop, does all the techs go on the trucks? I mean, is it like they pull up and then you basically just shut down and you guys all go out there, or there's guys out there that are like, man, you're stupid for going on there?
So we only have 4 technicians in our shop, so it's not like it's a huge shop or anything to have to worry about. Plus, we have talked with the tool guys on when they come. They come at really, you know, pretty decent, opportune times to where we can go out there and do what we need to do. Snap-on always comes at the very end of the day on Thursday, so we're already winding down, and you know, cleaning stuff up.
Matco comes Monday morning,
first thing Monday morning,
like 8:30 in the morning. Matt goes there.
Yep, he's right there. Plus, to be honest, you know, with me and Ron, we usually go out there. one of the other techs, he goes out there probably 50% of the time, and then the fourth guy, he goes out there maybe 10% of the time. But that's just, the general point of what our shop is. They're like 60 years old is one tech, another one's 54, 55. So they're not buying tools very often. So we don't have that issue too much, not too often. How many techs are in your shop, Dow?
4.
4 of them.
And as far as like how many goes out what? Well, Monday, like you said, early, it's not 8 o'clock though. It's about 10 or 11 o'clock. And me and Shane are usually the only ones that go out to that truck. But my boss and our other diagnostic guy, they don't really jump on there too often. They have everything that they need for the most part, and they have out of sight, out of mind. They don't think about it. They don't go on there. There's no, I think I'll pick that up. However, when our gear wrench rep shows up, because he's been showing up, for years, even though he switched brands, he's always showed up, and he always makes extra stops out of his way to help us out. He comes at the end of the day, so like the last 15, sorry, there's a fly in here, last 15, 20 minutes at the end of the day, he shows up. I know, he's fucking annoying, man. He just I'll go out to the tool truck, and we just hang out for like 15, 20 minutes, shoot the shit with him, catch up, look at some of the stuff that he's got, etc.
That fly is like the Snapon guy. You're just like, no, go away. I don't want you here. Not right now.
Give the flies 15 minutes of fame.
He smells the beer. That's what it is. He smells the beer. This little alcoholic fly, he likes hanging around my beer, so he's just like all over,
So let's get into some of the negative things that you guys think about the tool trucks. Personally, the tool trucks, they give a lot of really good service to what I really want and really need. I personally hate going to Harbor Freight, at least in our area, because they are very, very uneducated. They hire Walmart greeters at best, so they have no knowledge of anything in their store. So if you're going in there to ask a question or even where anything's at in the store, they don't know jack. So it's a pain in the butt to go there. So talking with the knowledgeable person there on the truck is nice, but there are a couple of, caveats to that. One is going to be the cost. You have to know that the cost on the tool truck is going to be an inflated rate. All the guys that say, oh, you overpaid for this, you overpaid for that. Yeah, you know what? I know I did because of what they bring to the table in the way of service, availability, bringing the convenience of coming to the shop. I know that, but you do pay a premium for it. And sometimes if you don't pay attention to what those things are, you pay a really, really big premium, and you have to pay attention when they mark things up. There's sometimes when they come out with this promotional items, they're, oh, these things are like 50, 60% off. But what you didn't know is 2 months ago, that tool got marked up 30% from what it used to be, 3, 4, 5, 6 months earlier from that. They do a lot of marking up, and, it kind of sucks that you have to watch out for that one. That's my personal worst thing with it, and the fact that, like I said, some of the tool truck drivers and the owners, they're not very stand-up guys, so they do prey on new technicians. They try to get them in the fact that, oh yeah, I offer you, this no interest, credit here for this much, and then they rack up their no interest truck accounts up to like $1,000, and then they're like, hey, we need you to pay more on this now. And the guy's like, dude, I don't got no more money. Well, let's roll it over onto Snap-on credit and, start your truck account at 0 again. Oh, okay. So then they roll everything over onto credit and they pay whatever, $10, $20 a week on that one. But then they start racking that little, on truck credit account up, and Captain Ron might have done that once. They start racking up that on truck credit account. And it's just a cycle that keeps on going around and around and around, and it just sucks them in. I hate that that's, something that gets those guys, but that's my things that I hate the most about them. What about you, Dow?
You almost described my Matco tool vendor almost to the T. That guy's truck. He don't want me to film. He doesn't care. His thought process is the tools sell themselves. Every time I ask him a question about a tool, scan tool, rack, he's like, yeah, I don't know. It's in the catalog. Just read whatever it says. I'm just like, oh, all right. So formulate my own opinion about it. Yeah, pretty much. He was a former technician at our shop. He was a diagnostic guru. He got out of it to make better money selling tools, and he has been so much to the regards to where he doesn't really know a lot about them. He knows how to find. So if you have a specific tool, you're like, I need a ball joint press set. He knows what to look for. But if you ask him, hey, who makes it? Is it durable? I mean, how much do you think it would be more beneficial to get the add-on kit or just buy the master kit? He's like, look, I don't know. You just got to play with it. I don't know what you use. You know, it's very short, keen. I'm like, wow, that doesn't fucking help me out at all. You know, like, or what are some of the buttons and features on this new scan tool you guys have, the Maximus 3.0? He's like, yeah, I don't know.
Here's the manual.
Scan tool, you know. What do you know about scan tools? Just plug it in and use it. And I'm like, oh, all right. I don't think he's ever touched the damn things, to be honest. So it's tomato. So when I go to like the Harbor Freight that I have, I mean, they're actually pretty knowledgeable. They actually know and they get a chance to play with some of the products up front. So for me, it's almost opposite, really.
Mm-hmm. What, you, the guy?
This fly. I swear to God, this fly.
So some of the negatives, obviously, you know, you could get into some trouble on those trucks. You know, obviously being a beginner tech, you know, seeing maybe everybody else in the shop with a tool or knowing you need a tool, and if you got guys in your shop that, you know, don't like to borrow their tools and stuff like that, you know, those trucks can get the younger techs in some trouble. I mean, I personally, you know, early in my career, I knew I didn't want to mess up my credit. I knew to stay off the trucks. I couldn't afford the tools. You know, some things I would get on there, like if it was a specialty tool or if I saved up for it or whatever. But for the most part, I mean, I stayed off the tool trucks until, you know, I knew I was ready to go on there or until I could afford to go on there. And a lot of these guys, you know, they don't, you know, they're not even sure if they want to be a mechanic long term, and they get on the truck and they get themselves in debt. And then next thing you know, they're working somewhere else, you know, working in the oil field or they're not a mechanic anymore and they're still in debt. So, you know, it could get in a lot of trouble. You know, I half of my career, I worked out of two stand-up Craftsman boxes before I bought my Epic, and I outgrew that box long before.
I'm telling you, I just
need it.
Get the hell out of here, Fly.
Now more are going to come in.
I'm trying to read the chats. I'm getting distracted. He's flying around my head.
It's all that hair product.
Sorry. Go ahead.
But yeah, I mean that's really the main one. You know, Steve, you know, the tech that works for me, he got himself in some trouble on the tool trucks. You know, he owes the tool trucks, and you know, just younger guys like that, I see it all too much. You know, and like I said, for me, working out of two Craftsmen, I mean, I was a tech doing everything. I outgrew my toolbox probably 5 years before I got that Epic, and I made it happen because I knew I couldn't be on the trucks. I knew I couldn't afford it. I had a family I had to support. You know, I had bills, I had things I got to do. I was saving for my business, you know, and I think if more guys know the information, you know, tool trucks can help. They can help your credit. They can help, but they can, you know, what's good about them is also what's bad about them. They can hurt too, you know. So really, that's the main, you know, negative on those tool trucks.
One of the
getting in a lot of trouble.
One of the things that I will make mention too, that maybe some people won't know. Creditors, it's like, say you have let's say you even have 3 or 4 different tool distributors. If you're planning on taking out a tool credit account from them, the most you can possibly do, from my experience, is 2 separate tool credit accounts. They don't like to see 3. The reason why I know this is because I had already paid off my Snapon, and I was carrying Cornwell credit of like $2,000, and I had a Matco credit account with like $5,000, and I tried to go and get an updated scan tool. When the Snap-on guy finally got rehired, I'm like, cool, get rid of this piece of crap. Give me the fucking Zeus or some shit, you know? And he's like, okay, let's run your credit, see if we can't get you hooked up. He's like, yeah, see, Snap-on doesn't like seeing the fact that you got Matco and Cornwell credit. I can't do it. And I was like, all right, well, what kind of cash still can we work? He's like, well, I can give you $1,500 in for your trade to go towards this other one. It was like, I think it was like the Modus Edge or something like that, which was like a step down, but a little bit more affordable. And he's like, but right now we got promos that knock it down to about $5,000. I'm like, that's pretty close to what I paid for this, and you're going to give me $1,500? And I was like, okay, maybe. He's like, okay, but the problem is I can't give you the discounts and the trade-in. It's one or the other, but it basically comes out to the same price. I'm like, so you want me to give you a free scan tool for the same fucking price that you were going to sell it to me for to begin with? And I just said, you know what? I'm over it. I'll start looking at other stuff. Flat Rate Master said something about the Bosch being freaking really good about European. I've heard, I got a chance to test out that Altel Maxisys Elite. So those are the two that I'm kind of like eyeballing right now, but I'm saving my money. I'm just going to pay cash when I can afford it.
That's a pretty good idea on that one. Yeah, that's pretty good, especially when it comes to scan tools. Yeah, those are one of the things that it's going to make you a lot of money, but you've got to be, careful on what you're spending your money on in the future, because you have to look on how much it's going to cost for updates. Those scan tools are not cheap when it comes to updates. Updates is where they really get you.
That, and I'd like to learn along. So like when I first bought the Solus Edge, it was up to date in software, and I was able to follow people like Scanner Danner, Keith DeFazio, Eric from South Main Auto. I was able to follow these guys and watch how they were diagnosing things. So I'd plug mine in while I'm watching YouTube, trying to figure out how to thumb wheel through the tool and figure out how to get more proficient at using it. Because somebody like me, who's a nuts and bolts guy, it's not that we don't want to learn the diagnostic side, but I'm so busy doing my job as being the main heavy line tech at my shop. There's not enough time to take me away from the work coming in to teach me something that I don't already know. So I really got to spend my time off the clock really messing around with it. And someone said, you shouldn't buy a scan tool if you don't know how to use it. Bullshit. How else do you learn? Don't go to college unless you know about college. You go to college to learn, right? It's all in learning. So sometimes you got to have the tool in front of you. Like there was another person, I think it was Keith DeFazio, actually, I was talking to on the phone a while back. And he's like, the best thing that you can do if you don't know much about it is take your DVOM, take your test flight, take your scan tool, start looking up wiring diagrams, start testing known good grounds, known good powers, and when you have an issue, you know what you should be looking at on your own car, and if there's a problem, you're going to catch it right away. And I thought that was like the best piece of advice that anyone ever gave me about it. Start testing known good cars if you don't have any education behind it, and you just develop it over time. Okay, this is how this works. This is how the system functions. This is what I'm looking for. This is what I can expect to see when it comes to power, switching grounds, switching powers, etc. That was like the best piece of advice I think anyone ever told me, really, to be honest.
I'd have to say about those scanners too. If anybody's trying to learn diag or like Dow, you're trying to learn. I wouldn't probably start off with like a big scanner, like an elite scanner like the Bosch. Grab yourself something small, like a mid-level scanner, and then just mess around with it, whether it's at work on your downtime or if you're shadowing your diagnostic guy. You don't need a huge scanner. I mean, that's at least what I did. 10, 15 years ago, the information wasn't out there. I couldn't watch guys like Scanner Danner and all those guys that I do now. Back then when I bought scanners, most shops, the techs didn't have to buy the scanners. The shops had them. We would as techs would expect them to have it. No techs, maybe one foreman at the dealership at one point in time had his own scanner, but for the most part, it was all either dealer supplied or shop supplied. And half the time it was outdated by a year or two. So you're working, independent. Most of my career was independent shops. So I'm working with outdated scan tools. And when I finally did get a scanner, I started off with a pocket scanner with a PID list, then learned the PID list, what's good, what's bad, the range. I mean, we had all data now on the computer. We had to put CDs in, like floppy disk CDs was our all data. And then we'd have to find the car and then, okay, 99 Toyota Corolla, and then we got to get that CD and put it in there, and then it loads up. That was our all data back then, and we had a big book of CDs we had to flip through to diagnose these cars, or the magazines, Haynes magazines, the Chilton magazines, all those things. That's what we had. Every time I bought a car, I'd buy one of those books, and I have them in the glove box. I mean, that was our information back then. So these scanners.
We had the same thing, especially now with that. We had, working at the dealership, I remember we had all of the information and the manuals for all of these cars from like 1991 through 2004 right there. I mean, we had like 150 freaking 3-inch wide user manuals for these vehicles. It was ridiculous what we had to keep. What's up,
Justin? ATV.
Real quick. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Dal. Go ahead. I'm just reading the chat.
I was just going to comment and say, it was interesting because I was watching one of Jim's videos, the JRC54, and he was actually showing us like one of the original Veruses where you had all these little different chips he had to put in, the K chips on the tool to be able to tell like what car you were actually going to use instead of actually selecting it. Mm-hmm. And then to go over to Kyle, when it comes to the OBD1 stuff, you had like the the DRB3, and then they came out with the VCI pod that you can actually go into a DRB3 setting using the VCI pod if it had a DLC connector. But then you had like 500 other connectors that you could possibly use for OBD1. So I was like, man, I'm so glad that I didn't have to deal with that crap. Now, I'm in an independent shop, sure, but I'm not the guy in charge of the Nintendo. So for me, I'm like, hey, 96 and newer, I'll plug it in and play it. Anything at OBD1, you start pulling out dwell meters and talking this, that, and the other, you got me lost, brother. I mean, I've dealt with carburetors, but to go all the way back even farther when there was a dwell meter and you had the reverse polarity of the system, I'm like, you're blowing my mind, Chief. I don't know what the hell I'm looking at right now. You just go ahead and do you. Tell me what I need to change out.
One of the very first scanners that I actually started right when I worked at the dealership was the original Solus, right when it came out, and they had, you know, the little key tag thing full of all the little chips that you had to plug into the connector to be able to communicate with all of these vehicles. And this was still OBD2, but on the original, you know, questions there, it was you had to figure out which one out of these like 10 chips that would actually work with it. And it's just, yeah, it was a pain in the butt to have to work with that.
Yeah, and going what Bill Mack said, you have to make sure you use the wrong key, because if you get the wrong, you put the wrong key in there, you got to make sure you use the right key. It would give you the wrong PID list. It would give you wrong codes. You'd be diagnosing a code that ain't even in the car. You know, communication issues, all that stuff. I mean, it was a pain. It really was. And then I've had shops not have scanners at all, and I'm trying to look up like a firing order. I have to go to the library and go to the car catalog and go find the book, find out it's checked out already. I'm waiting 2 days to get the book back to find out the firing order because there's no internet. It was rough back then, man.
I remember going through school. We actually touched on those scan tools where you actually had to have the keys and stuff like that to put in there. More so of just as a history of scan tools type thing.
It was a history class when he went to school for it. We had automotive history class.
Automotive scan tool history class. But yeah, I mean, you know, when we got into doing scan tools and stuff, it was all the newer stuff, all OBD2, because, you know, that's the majority of stuff that we were going to be working on. But, you know, I never really messed with them, and I don't think I've ever messed with them. I'll probably never mess with them again because of the only time doing it in college courses. So
now going back through, there's a couple of questions that I wanted to get to that were really good ones in the chat, and one of them was taking advantage of student discounts. The tool truck guys, when you go on there and say you are a student, you know, like when you started in school,
Yep.
You were still at the shop and you still got the chance to go onto the tool trucks, but then you also got your student discount, not with the guy that's on the tool truck, but with the guy who is your rep at school.
Yep.
Going through the student SEP programs with Mac, Matco, and Snapon were the big three. They usually give technicians who are in school 40 to 60% off, right around there, when it comes to tool purchases, you know, as a student, because they know that first off, these tools are huge expenses, and, you know, getting started in the industry, you're not making that much money. So they want to give you an area where you can buy the nicer tools if you know what you need at a discounted price.
Yep.
Plus, it's kind of smart on their part because they are getting their fangs kind of hooked into those students early on with these big discounts, because everybody, whether they like to admit it or not, they like things to match. So when you're starting off sets in Snap-on or Mac or whatever, you like to keep on buying those things.
You're getting your foot in the door is what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. They get their foot in the door to getting, you know, your business for the next, you know, however many years of your career. It's a big thing for them to do. And with my experience with, at least this year, I went to Sinclair Community College, which is the local school that I'm doing my scholarship program with. Went to their original tool show day where they had all of the different manufacturers come in to do the dog and pony show and everything, show these techs what kind of tools and what kind of discounts they have. And they brought that to the table for them. All of them are bringing these tools and they're offering them at 40 to 60% off. Now, there is a lot of differences between a lot of the different manufacturers. Snap-on is one of the gray area ones where the discount that they give on their SEP program is not all tools. Not everything in the Snap-on catalog can you usually get those student discounts. Like, you can't go in and you're like, oh yeah, I want that 50% off that Epic box, of course. No, they don't offer that one. The biggest thing you can get is like a 54-inch Master Series.
Yep.
That's the
no
biggest box.
toolbox, no scan tool.
So, and then there's differences in other manufacturers. Yeah. Matco and Mac, they will offer the smaller scan tools for you. Snap-on will not give you discounts on scan tools. Matco and Mac, they will give you discounts on the smaller ones, not up to like the Maximus 3.0s or anything, the big ones, but you know, some of the bigger things. So they start inching forward in a little bit more of their product that you can get. Now, again, once you get into the specialty things like master fuel pressure testing equipment, you know, one of these master kits that's like $500, $800, $1,000, they're not giving you that much in that one. And then, like Trent just brought up, SP Tools, which I was kind of there with at Sinclair. They are one of the newer tool companies to the market, so they're not as well known. They don't have tool trucks out there, but they're changing things when it comes to tool buying. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But they offer their entire catalog to a student discount. The entire thing. It's between 35 to 60% off, depending on which tool and whatever it would be. But that's including scan tools, that's including toolboxes, all of their sets, all of their pre-cut, whatever full lock, like $7,000 sets. Everything is under student discount price for that one. They just have to verify that you're a student at whatever school. So that is something that's really cool that I'd like to see a lot more tool companies getting into for students starting out, at least.
The other nice thing about Snap-on and the student discount program, and I actually took benefit of this whenever I did it, is like he was mentioning, you can get, a toolbox, at a discount, at a majorly discounted rate. I think the toolbox that I started off with, it was a 56 Master Series, something like that. And I think I paid right around like $1,200 for it. But the nice thing about it is that, and this is the part of them getting their fangs into you again, they give you a certificate that when you go to upgrade your box to a bigger box, they'll give you the full price at trade-in. So I paid $1,200 for a toolbox, but I got almost $5,000 in trading credits when it came to me wanting to upgrade to the box that I currently have now.
That's a really, really good deal.
So that is pretty cool. I have something that I thought was absolutely hilarious, though, that I did want to share. I had a buddy, God rest his soul, he's no longer with us now, but he actually had the Harbor Freight matte red 5-drawer cart when he started off at Chrysler, and he bought one of these Snap-on chrome emblems that stuck on the side. He ripped his all off and put that on there, traded in, and Snap-on gave him $1,500 trade-in for it. And it was a Snap-on, and he ended up getting a bigger and better cart for a fraction of the cost. Like, dude, cost me $15. Totally just got like a huge ass fucking increase. And I was like, what the fuck, bro? He's like, he's awesome. He goes, I peeled it off with a putty knife, stuck that bastard on there. He didn't know any better. I was like, that's hilarious.
You guys didn't know.
So bringing up the student discounts, again, talking about being old school, they didn't have the tool companies back when I went to school. Matco was probably just getting started. Deer Wench wasn't nearly what it is now. I don't remember any of those tools. I don't. The tools that we have access to, and like SP obviously was never heard of. They were the thing back then. I missed out. I missed the wagon on. I think I got a few things. I think when your first semester there, they give you your fluke meter, they give you a few things, but I was paying my own student bills. I was doing it myself. So really, I couldn't even afford the tools at a 50% discount, and it was through Snap-on at UTI at the time. But I think, like you said, Kyle, a lot more tool companies do that to get your fangs in, because I've seen it. I want my tool sets to be a certain brand. When I first started off, the times I did go on those tool trucks were to buy a cheap tool, no matter what tool truck that was, whether it was Cornwell, Mac, Mac. I got tools from all the tool trucks. And now, late in my career now, I'd like to have all one set, whether it's Snap-on or whatever it is. So now I'm switching them out. So I ended up buying the tools that I should have bought then. Now I feel like I'm spending more money now. I should have just bit the bullet and spend the money then, and maybe I'd have less to spend now. But the tool companies weren't around back then. There's so many options out there for people nowadays with these tool brand and everything else, and with the student loans. I mean, it's better than being with one company.
I agree with that one, especially what the students aren't thinking about is interest costs. When you're a new student and you're fresh in high school or fresh out of high school, you're in college, you're going to school, and you're going, you're working usually, part-time or full-time, whatever, in these jobs. These students, they don't really have a credit buildup. So when they're getting a hold of these tool companies, first off, the tool companies, usually with a student discount, they're not going to give you over, we'll say $5,000 to $7,000, depending on, kind of what kind of situation you're in. But they're also going to give you some shit-tastic credit score. And they're not going to give you any kind of credit rating whatsoever. Your APR rates on some of those, Snapon and Mac, their credit accounts are horrendous. So as a first-time, student right out of high school, you've got a low amount of credit score. They're going to give you like a 28% interest rate. And that discount that you just got, that 45% discount, 50% discount, whatever it is on those tools, after the first year or 2 years, you just lost all that discount. It all just went away in APR. Interest rates just killed that. And they don't tell the students that. And the students, if they don't have an adult or family member who has, seen that before, they don't really get that one. So it sucks to see that even the student discounts, it's a way for them to prey on newer techs coming into the industry. I really, really hate to see that one.
Now, Jim, you were talking about, whenever you were back in school, you guys had to crank the cars from the front to get them to start whenever that was happening.
No, he had to pedal them.
It was definitely OBD1. Yeah, but it was nice. My old man had a car lot, so I got to mess around with those cars and learn, on cars that my dad owned. So if I messed them up, who cares? We throw them on the back burner and fix them later. I wasn't learning on customers' actual cars, so it was nice while I was in school to go to his lot and play around his cars.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about tool truck numbers. I've been doing a lot of thinking about this one and getting the differences between these tool trucks, like what I really like about this one, what I really like about that one. Let's talk about like the optimal tool truck value and how they would be able to make it a sustainable business on top of that one. Because obviously everybody wants like Snap-on level tools at Harbor Freight level prices brought to my doorstep, and that would be perfect. But that's not sustainable for a company a lot of the times. Let's try to pull up a couple of pointers that we can think of on what your optimal tool truck buying purchases and experience would be. I'll throw out like the first one. A lot of the times these tools, they're marked up to be able to cover the costs of warranties, and whether the tool truck owners and franchisees are carrying tool truck accounts, they've got to be able to cover that extra cost in there. So if they didn't have to cover that one, Snap-on franchisees automatically put it into the cost of the tool and have it factored in that they are going to lose probably 1.5% to 3% of the technicians that buy that tool. They're going to either have to repo it, or they're going to have to send to collections over that one. And getting sent to collections, the tool truck guy loses out, the tech loses. It's bad news all the way around. So if they didn't have to do that one, I think that the tool cost would be down at least 5 to 10% on that one. So my idea for that one would be these tool trucks to not carry absolute 0% interest in their tool truck accounts anymore, to carry a 5% interest rate after, we'll say, 3 weeks. That would be, my thing to that one, to be able to offer people that truck account. But if you're really using it, then you're going to be charged that interest fee. But the people who don't use it, you're not going to be charged that extra for the tool or the interest cost that would come with having to use the credit accounts. So let's hear maybe Mr. Dow, what kind of things can you think about for a tool truck?
It's a lot to take in. If I understand correctly, though, I would say that I like the on truck you and me 0%. That's like my favorite. But once you get past a certain figure and you have to apply for credit, I almost think it's almost beneficial for them to charge 18 to 22% interest. And let me explain my thoughts on why.
Okay.
A lot of times you'll hear a lot of guys saying, well, if you don't have the cash, you shouldn't be buying it. I have to agree with that. But there are certain situations that you run into, especially when you're a younger tech and you're not making the big dollars yet, where you kind of got to eat the bullet. And I've had to do this. I'm still kind of playing with the, tool truck credit as it is. It's not that I don't owe, I still owe, I still have to pay the 18 to 20% interest on my tool accounts. That's just the way that it is. But it kind of puts you in custody, so to speak. It kind of makes you a little bit more reserved about your purchasing. Like, well, if I have to put it on credit, how bad do I really need it? If I can wait 2 weeks till I get paid or 1 week till I get paid and then pay for it in cash, wouldn't that be more beneficial? And instead of spending 2-3 times the cost for this Lyle or Liesel tool that I found online for a lot cheaper, shouldn't I just go that route and buy that instead? I've heard a lot of great reviews and it seems to hold up. So would really spending 3 times the amount of money on a tool that looks like it's going to be durable and hold up in the scenarios that I'm going to use it in, would it really be worth it to spend 3 times the cost? I think a lot of things need to be taken into consideration before purchasing. And I think having a high interest rate really kind of helps put you in the cuffs to say, I just don't know that I want to add that onto my credit right now. And it actually gives you time to sleep on it and think about that and make a rational decision. That's my thought process.
I can agree with that one. I really can. What about you, Jim?
So yeah, you're right. The franchisees have to add, lost merchandise, chances of even repoing it, sometimes they don't get it back. So that's in the cost of when they sell the tools, at that kind of markup. But, for something bought on credit, like would I buy a tool maybe if it wasn't that marked up, or if they gave me 3 months to pay on it, before interest kicked in, that would consist of them running a credit score. And most of the time, guys buy off that, from the tool truck guy because they don't run your credit. Obviously buying off an RA account is, it has nothing to do with your credit. And some guys with bad credit won't be able to do that. I personally would, some bigger items, obviously I have the choice. I have a shop account on the truck, and then I have my personal account. So, like when I bought my toolbox, I didn't put that on my personal account. I put it on my shop account to help my shop's credit because my credit was already good on there. But I don't think that, if you have to think about bringing the cost of the tool down because you can't afford it or you want to buy it a better way, I think the only way that's going to change is if these other companies come out with tools that are just as good as the ones you get off the tool truck for less of a price that you can get, like you can get off the tool truck. That'll drive their costs down. So really you don't even have to worry about not having interest in there. They'll have to figure something out. They'll have to either take interest off, charge less, or give you a better deal on it.
I definitely agree with that one. Now, personally, I think that the biggest issue with the entire tool truck program across the whole board is the franchisee section of it. The fact that franchisees are not actual, owners into the company. They aren't employees of Snapon or Mac or Mac.
They're customers too, pretty much.
They are exactly. They're customers who are paying a discount rate on the amount of tools that they buy. So they're pretty much a wholesale distributor for that tool brand. So that right there, it just adds another mouth to feed in that line of, everybody's got to make a little bit of money. It goes into the fact of like how dealerships are ran. When a customer comes into the dealership, they get their first greet from, the lady that comes and greets you, says, okay, what are we doing today? Service writer talks to you. You might talk to the service manager. You talk to somebody in the waiting room. You get free coffee. This person has to make money. The tech has to make money. Parts department has to make money. The owner makes a little bit of money on top of that. There's a lot of people in the line of things. And when you start putting that into perspective in the way of tools, the guy who made the tool, that guy's got to make money. The company who invented the tool, they got to make money. They probably paid a developer to be able to, engineer that tool, got to make money. So there's 3 steps right there. Now then it's going to the distributors, because that each one of those tools isn't just going for a single brand very often. Kind of like Matco, they buy and use different tool brands and distributors. They just have them stamp their own name onto it. So it's got to go to 3 different sources or whatever is doing that one. On top of that, you've got to keep in mind that it's got to go to a franchisee who also has to make money in between there. So you've got 4 or 5 people in that line of that tool who has to make money. And I think that each time you step up each tier on that landing, you have to pay more of a markup each time, because those are the guys who are putting their brand names, franchisee names, their fancy whatever spiels onto the salesperson.
It's like the old saying, too many cooks spoil the broth. You put too many hands into this, and then everybody wants their own slice of it, so that's going to drive prices up.
A lot of middlemen.
I definitely think so. And I think one of the first things that needs to go, if any of this is ever going to get fixed in the way of the tool costs and pricing and changing how the industry is done, is that they have to get rid of franchisees. Now, it's going to be really hard and almost impossible for the current companies to do, because they sign these franchisees with so many years of having their routes or whatever. So it's really hard for them to just cut cold turkey and say, okay, we're not going to have franchisees anymore. Everybody, we'll just ship you what we have, and you're going to be distributors for Snapon as Snapon, and you get paid, we'll say, a monetary value of $50,000 a year, just standard flat. That's what you get. And I think that's the kind of company that it's going to take moving forward to see this actual tool truck game change. And there is a couple of them that are coming out. I've talked to a couple of different ones, and I think the midline tool companies are the ones that you're going to see that are going to change the industry the most. The gear wrench trucks, Cornwell trucks, the SP Tools, they're coming out with a line of trucks starting in the south around Georgia, Alabama area. So they're going to be coming out with some of those there.
They better have one that comes to us.
Eventually. We'll see about that one. But I think those midline, kind of tool trucks are the ones that are going to be changing how this thing works, because they're not going to be franchisees moving forward. I don't see it as. So that's going to take that one extra mouth to feed in the middle of that whole line of people making money, and hopefully that'll change things.
So going off in a different direction, Rustbelt says, my Snapon rep told me he gets paid based on how much people pay on their truck accounts and not so much per tool. Do you think that's another bargaining thing, or is that a...
That's because he probably doesn't own his own truck.
So
if you're paying somebody else, then yeah.
So you bringing up the guys that run the trucks for people that own the trucks, really that they don't own the trucks. Those franchisees, they have managers, they have people they need to answer to, and it does. The tools go through a lot of middlemen, but there's a lot to a tool, obviously, than just the tooling, the machining, and making it. Obviously, there's advertising for the tool, there's testing on the tool. There's a lot more to the tool being sold. So there's even more middlemen than probably we could think of going into that tool. But the only people that, going back to what you said, the only people that are going to drive and change in these tool trucks will have to go with the times is the mid-level people coming out with those, professional grade tools to make their tools not as good anymore. You can't, they got no excuse to charge what they're charging, for a tool that, you can, for a better tool, you can get cheaper, whether it's online or through, Lyle or Cornwell or any of those other guys, SP Tools, any of those ones. I think that's the only person that's going to change the game, whether they do, stop the franchisees or do something different in that. I've actually had a tool guy that he maxed out his account. He couldn't even buy tools. I'd asked him to special order tools. He owed Snapon so much money, they wouldn't even sell him tools. So, I mean, those guys get into debt just like we do. They have no control over it. The only people that can control the prices is obviously corporate of those places and other tool companies driving down the prices of their tools.
I've heard and seen that before as well.
Yeah.
Yep, and it all depends also on how big the company is. When you're thinking of a gigantic company like Mac or Snap-on, this giant company is moving forward. I always put it in the way of like this giant locomotive train. They've got their business plans set forward like 5, 10, 15 years into the future. They have to, because of how big of a multi-million-dollar company that they are. They have to be able to plan out this far. Now, unfortunately, that makes them not be able to change with the times very fast at all. When we have any kind of recessions, or if these we're having a shortage of technicians in the industry, that takes down the amount of people who are buying your tools.
Mm-hmm.
They're not able to change their outcomes for what this is going on.
Or their
policies very fast at all. That's why I said, if they're going to do away with any of these franchisees, it's like a 10-year down the road kind of planning kind of thing, because you've signed these people for so long. You're on this path, so they can't stop this gigantic locomotive to change directions very fast at all. That's where those middle and the smaller style tool companies are going to be able to change with the times a lot faster. And I think that's why they're going to be able to thrive in the industry coming up, especially like Jim said, if you're able to get those tool costs down, quality up, you're able to bring maybe even a brick and mortar store to more areas. I think it'd be cool to start seeing some of those midline individual brick and mortar stores spread out throughout the entire U.S. I think you're going to start seeing them. Gear Wrench, I think you're going to start seeing those stores pop up in, I don't know if it's going to be like mall locations or anything, but I do think it's going to be in, stripped down areas with like Walmarts and stuff. But I think that you're going to see Gear Wrench areas.
Who goes to malls anymore?
Ours is about dead.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. But I think you're going to start seeing those kind of stores in brick and mortar form pop up, because that's also going to bring hubs for those tools to be able to get delivered across the country to whatever area that they're needed faster. If you have a network setup of small, even, little brick and mortar locations that they may not even do that much sales out the door, right in person, you may not see them doing that much. But the fact that they're there and they have an inventory of tools, they're able to get tools across the country faster, make the customers happier, and it's going to cut down costs and shipping on top of that one. You imagine how much that these larger companies pay a month in shipping costs for their heavy ass tools that they're selling. God, it must be outrageous to see what all these companies are paying.
Yeah, I've got a question for everybody,
Mm-hmm.
and this is just one I just came up with, and it's kind of off tangent, but not really. Thank
you, Tariq. I appreciate it. Another awesome donation from Tarek. I appreciate it, bud.
Now, I'm not sure, because obviously we don't have Gear Wrench trucks here and stuff, and Cornwall trucks. So you guys will have to be more of a advocate for talking about them. But specifically for the Snap-on truck that we have, a lot of times you'll have him go out and buy Milwaukee tools, or he'll go out and buy, what other stuff we've seen on there. I can only think of Milwaukee off the top of my head. Monster tools and stuff like that. And they pride themselves on, we got Snap-on, we got Blue Point, this is what we got. But then you start seeing these, like, he goes to Home Depot and buys 3 or 4, different sets of tools, and then he stocks those on the truck as well. Obviously you're not getting any warranty through Snap-on trucks through that, or you're not getting any sort of, it's just kind of it's there, it's convenient. Hey, it's got an impulse buy. What's your guys' thoughts on that?
Start with you, Jim.
So my guys, you won't see Milwaukee tools on the Snap-on truck. He'll get them, obviously, because he makes money on them. If somebody can't buy a tool from the store, and I've actually talked to him about this too. But it's not like those other tool trucks. You're not seeing monsters on my Snap-on truck. You're not seeing any of those other tool brands. The only tool brands you're seeing is the supplement. So obviously Gear Wrenches, things like that, and anything in the Snap-on supplement catalog is all covered under warranty through them. But he does buy Milwaukee. My Snap-on guy sat there and said himself, Milwaukee cordless tools, Snap-on's got nothing on them. And some guys I've seen Milwaukee on there, and the Cornwall guy, Cornwall's a little different. The territory's a little different, and like bring it back. If Cornwall ever came to a town like mine or in this area, I mean, that would shake the big three in their pants. I mean, I don't know if they would be able, and I think that's why they don't come around, because they think they have the market so saturated. But in our area, we would need a truck like that. Dow, for you to have a Cornwall or a gear wrench truck to come to you, man, you know how jealous I am about that. Most of the guys in chat that only get the big three, I would kill for a gear wrench truck or even an independent truck at that matter. But in my area, Snap-on especially, actually, I don't even know. The rules are so crazy around by me with the Snap-on trucks. I mean, if you're across the street in another guy's territory, you might get shot at with these Snap-on guys. It's like cutthroat. So I don't know if they're even allowed to have it displayed on their truck, any tool brands, but they do it, and they do it for the money. They, obviously you go to Home Depot, buy a $250 tool, and you sell it to the guy for $300, you're making $50, and I don't know how the warranty works on it, because I wouldn't buy any of those tools off those trucks.
Right.
Now, Brett Shear, he added something to this portion, and he wanted to say, playing devil's advocate and paying that extra little bit because those franchisees are local. I agree with that one, because I like having the personability that local franchisee has to their specific brand. And I don't mind paying that because he is servicing our dealership, a lot better than what some corporate kind of person would, but in the way of how the franchisees are taken into account with the company, because they are franchisees, they're pretty much just wholesale distributors. Now, what if you had them in that same position, but as a 100% paid by Snap-on employee, where they got 401k and everything through the company, instead of having to be an outward distributor for them as well? That might be something that could change in the industry, because you're not having to go with that 39 to 41% markup that the franchisees are getting their discounts on. It's automatically Snap-on is giving to a Snap-on employee to sell on his routes. That might be something that's kind of a midline kind of thing.
So have any of you guys ever heard of like a corporate guy running a truck? I'm trying to think. For some reason, I think I've heard of that. There's actually corporate guys that run those truck routes, and you might be, I don't know if they could get better deals or whatever, but I want to say when you brought that up, I thought of that.
Only the specialty trucks that I've seen have been corporate paid members, like the rock and roll cab, the diagnostic guys that are there for each region has their own diagnostic technician salesman, and that is also a corporate paid guy. You could ask your Snap-on or Matco franchisee that, hey, is there a regional diagnostic guy? Now, they are able to give pretty good discounts.
So those diag guys, they do work for corporate, because I've had a diagnostic truck come to the shop.
Yep.
Yeah.
My one, he worked for Snap-on.
Those are corporate, like the rock and roll trucks too.
I have my experience on the matter has been, we had when Snap-on was in play, they had a diagnostic rep that would come by every so often, like once, maybe twice a year. And I almost actually went to work for Snap-on once upon a time ago as a diagnostic tool salesman, because I knew a lot about their scan tool and their platform. And that didn't really go through. I still wanted to learn more about the diagnostic platform before I started talking out of my ass. I was like, I really want to learn this, so I'm going to keep in the trade for a little while. But they offered me a $75,000 salary plus commission, which seemed pretty legit. I was like, okay, well, I think about it or what have you. But after talking to the wife, I'd be traveling a lot. It wasn't something that I was really into at the time, especially for like just the minimal bump that it would have been, because it would have only been about $15,000 north of what it is that I already make per year. So it wasn't really 100% enticing. It was okay. It wasn't like the greatest of great though. And I was like, I don't know how I feel about that yet. I'm still trying to get my feet wet and learn about diagnostic. I think I would take one look at me, and if I tried to sell you a tool and I knew all the ins and outs of the diagnostic tool, but I didn't know anything about diag, that might be a hard sell. So I was like, nah, I'm going to stick with automotive for a little longer. That way I actually know what the fuck I'm talking about before I go try to sell you a tool. Because, as a shop owner, do you want some guy that knows everything about the tool but nothing about legitimate diag? Do you want him trying to sell you a tool? because that's exactly what I kind of ran into.
And that's what I've seen with actually a lot of diagnostic companies, like as a whole. Their sales aspect is like through the roof. They're all for pushing their product. I can sell it. Yeah, we've got our 5 talking points. You could go to each one of these salesmen for Bosch, for Autel, for Launch, or one of their reps, and say, hey, what's the big point that's better off this one? And if you talk to 3 different sales reps, they each would have the top 5 different sales and talking points of it. But once you start getting into like the really little things, they're not going to know how these things work. You start talking about boot up time. You start talking about maintenance on the scan tool, on what the, after it's so long, what happens when the company doesn't carry updates for it anymore. Just the little things like that. They're not going to know really what that is. Speaking of Snap-on representatives in here, Mr. Dustin Cole, that is the tool truck owner that goes through our location. So,
and this is for you, Dustin.
I would like to interject momentarily, obviously. So when I was at the Snap-on class, what drove this idea of me possibly coming to work to help them sell was when they did a class. It was supposed to be a diagnostic class. It was more of a diagnostic scan tool pitch. And they had a hard time answering a lot of the questions that I already knew because I had already previously had my own education with it. I went to a community college. It was Snap-on based. So I already had my hands on the Vantage Pro, the Vantage Ultra, the Solus, the Edge. I just bought the Edge, the Bolt, the Vantage Ultra, and I had the Solus Edge. I played with the Vera, so I knew a lot more about the tools than they did. And they were like, why don't you come work for us? And I'm like, I don't know. It depends on what you're offering. I'm still learning about the diag side. I'm just telling you guys, I'm basically still relatively fresh out of college, and you're giving off wrong information. Do you even spend time with your tool? Spend time with it. Like, before you start doing a diagnostic meeting, maybe it'd be a good idea, instead of just buying pizza and soda and splashing it on us, maybe actually go a little bit more involved in it. They're like, well, we don't know all that stuff. And I'm like, well, that's going to suck for you.
See, that's training from corporate now, and that's the thing. They come out with this new stuff, and I remember when they came out with that, the advanced diagnostic that they're putting in the Snap-on scanners now. And I was asking a guy about him, and he didn't know anything about it. And Snap-on, they're not training these guys to sell this stuff. They're getting trained to sell to these franchisees, but they're not. There's no proper training into showing what this stuff is all about. Half the things I've learned, I learned something off Kyle. I asked him if I buy the Mitchell, the Shopkey subscription, will I be able to sign into the computer up front and still use it on the Zeus? The guy didn't even know. I had to ask Kyle to get the information. It's all about training. And then from what Dow said, I think we've all, thought about selling tools on a truck at one point or another.
Oh, sure.
We all have. The guys in the chat, us guys, it's just the things you think about is, the unfairness that, sometimes that you feel when you're on the tool truck or whatever. I just don't know if I'm cut out for that. I don't know. Some of those guys make really good money, though. I mean, some of these tool guys are killing it. I mean, to have 2 other trucks, guys running it for you, I don't know how that all works out with insurance and everything else. But, they got to be making a good living. I mean, I see what my Cornwell guy has. I see what my Snap-on guy has running multiple trucks. I mean, they got to be either in crazy amounts of debt with Snap-on or doing well.
I'm going to say crazy amount of debts, because both my Snap-on guys, before they tanked, one got fired, one quit. They started off hair groomed properly, nice, clean cut, happy to be there, happy to sell. 6 months into it, their hair looked like mine. They were all fucked up, talking about their wives are getting ready to leave them and shit. And I'm like, Jesus fuck. They're like, my parents just died, and I don't know what I'm doing. I'm like, Jesus Christ, I'm not a psychologist, man. I just
like a bad country song. I'm not gonna lie.
That's probably how it is.
Heavy amounts of debt. When it comes to Matco, the Matco rep that I have, if he has debt, he doesn't show it. My gear wrench guy, he's like, dude, I own everything, so I'm not stressed at all. And I'm like, that's fucking awesome. So I think it really depends on the distributor. You know what I mean?
I think so too. I guess my 2 cents on it would be that the tool trucks, the franchisees, the distributors to it, it's really going to matter on the kind of sales that you do And it really is a big luck of the draw to what kind of region that you have, to the kind of sales that you're going to do. But I really don't see people who have one single route making money to be able to keep up that route for a sustained career. You know, that might be a stepping stone for them. I've yet to see a guy who owns one Snap-on truck route last more than 4 to 5 years at most. The ones who last are the ones who start picking up more routes, 2, 3 routes, and then they also start with, you know, little bits of supplemental sales in there. Like earlier when Ron was talking about the Milwaukee things, or having monster tools on the truck, that's just, you know, kind of another point of sale for them to be able to use on there. And I think that's going to give them diversity in their truck over what other manufacturers and what other local distributors may or may not be carrying also.
So it's pretty much area specific. So maybe if the area is busy and they've got a lot of techs that have a high demand that are willing to purchase from that particular distributor, business might be good. But in a rural area like mine, business might be tough, especially when you have a lot of guys that jump on. They're in and out of these mechanic jobs. They're like going out of style. So they jump on, they go on the rock and roll cab, they buy a $5,500 toolbox. Next thing you know, they jump it, flip it, run, get fired, sell it. Next thing you know, you never hear from them again. So now that guy's got to eat it, right? So that's got to be pretty tough in a rural area. Whereas in a more, let's say, metropolitan area, or where it's busy and you have a lot of good old homeboys that are there that actually pay their bill on time, it might be a little bit different, and it might actually be beneficial for them to be a distributor in that area, like Ohio. A lot of guys on YouTube in Ohio, right? Mechanics-wise, tool-wise, there's a lot of guys out there. So obviously that might be a good area as far as tool distributing is concerned. But in the desert areas, or maybe like the rural areas of Alabama, you might not want old Jimbo from down south of Alabama, just north of the freaking Mississippi or whatever, to come over and buy a rock and roll cab truck. I don't know, just my 2 cents.
Well, I know those rock and roll trucks, that's a regional thing. You know, if he's doing Alabama, he's probably, doing the whole central, it's pretty much by the area on that. But I know guys in areas like mine. I mean, I'd probably have to say that a lot of people live in Ohio, but I know not Kyle's area. But my area, there's enough business to go around. There's people out like crazy, traffic everywhere. I mean, it's crazy out there. So to be, to buy a franchisee and want to get into an area like this, it's cutthroat. It's make it or break it. So yeah, those guys, to being in debt, it's okay if you're in debt if it's controlled debt. If your debt to income ratio is okay, then you can go ahead and be in debt. It's fine if you're making money and you're able to pay your bills. But I can see how some of these guys get into it, owing, $100,000, $200,000, and then end up tanking because they're not making the sales that they need and they get no support from corporate.
Now I see what you're talking about, with the cutthroat action with the tool trucks in your area. I see that one, I've seen it happen before. And with the corporate and the local tool distributors that we have around here, they're not that way at all. They are usually a pretty close knit, if not at least on a really good talking basis, because the routes and the areas that we have here in this area are a little bit more spread out, I would say. And that's another one of the things where if that specific tool franchisee or distributor doesn't have the tools or what the guys need right away, it's all about the right now kind of business. The technicians and the shops these days, if they come up, for instance, 2 weeks ago, our AC machine in our shop took a shit. Circuit board blew out of it. It was just dead. We had 3 AC jobs to have to be able to do within the next 2 days. I needed one like right now. Dustin, he went through and he's like, I think I might have one. Went to the shop, found out he didn't have one. He was able to go to the distributor just to the north of our area, get with him and say, hey, yes, there is that one. They're on a good enough talking basis to be able to get that one to him to me, all within a 12-hour notice on that one. That's, I think, one of the best things that any of the local franchisees can do. This whole cutthroat thing of, you wouldn't see 2 Snap-on trucks, come to the, shops close to each other, or you wouldn't see the two, a Snapon and a Matco truck come to the same shop on the same day because they'd be shooting at each other. I've seen those kind of horror stories, but I think that just doesn't work at all.
So your guys work together. They one guy will call another. See, that's kind of cool. And I think if it was like that around here, it'd be better. But the guys around here, my Snap-on and Corvo guy, they don't even like each other. They troll each other on their Facebook pages and all that stuff. It's rough. It's out there rough. It's crazy.
One thing that I will say that I actually do miss about Snap-on, they haven't done it in a handful of years now, was the Masters of Metal Tour. That was like one of my favorite shows they would put on down here in Southern California at Torrey Nissan. They'd get together. They had these games. You'd have the wheel thing. You'd sit there and zap with their guns and try out, see how fast you could be. Like if you were NASCAR speed, win prizes, win tickets. They give away service cards. They had good food. They did poker and gambling. It was like the perfect thing for me as a tool guy and mechanic to be able to digress. I'm like, dude, we can go gamble and get free tickets for like tools and cards and giveaways, and there's food and there's NASCAR stuff. There's these drag racing cars they brought out. I miss that, man, but they don't have it anymore. We don't have a Snap-on rep, but that was one of my favorite shows they put on.
Now even that one at a corporate level is something really cool to see. But when the franchisee take it amongst themselves to be able to run something like that, that's where I think that they are hitting like the nail on the head pretty big. Dustin, he ran one, it was like, what, a year or so ago? Yeah, and he ran an open house at his warehouse, had all the overstock of all the toolboxes that he had there, invited everybody on the 3 routes that he had to come over to his place, and he served breakfast, he served coffee, beverages, raffled off a bunch of different tools and promotional items for everyone. It was a really good time, and everybody, there was probably 50 to 70 people that showed up there. Easily. And when you're bringing that amount of people into one location for that, I think that's something that a lot of different franchisees really need to get on to doing, because it's just another point of customer service. If you're able to offer that good of customer service to your entire route to show them that's how dedicated you are to it, they're going to spend more money. If you're more personable and you're able to connect with those customers that much better, they're going to spend more money with you, regardless of whether the brand of tool or what kind of tool that you sell may cost a little bit more, or you have to warranty off very often. It's all about the connection that you have to the customers and being able to make that personal sale with them. It's not just a sale over the internet, which is why I personally, I don't buy, but maybe one tool every once in a while off the internet. I just personally don't like buying tools off the internet. That's just me. I like buying it from somebody and or at least some place where I can put my hands on it before I give money for it. What about you guys, Dow?
I've got 2 questions first, and then you can re-ask me your question because I already forgot, because I'm thinking about the 2 questions. One, what's going on? What's new with the TOOLHEADZ crate box? What's new for the month? And then
getting one in a day.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
You're getting one in a day.
No, what's new? What's new? Is there new?
You have to see it. That's the whole thing about the TOOLHEADZ crate.
Okay, touche. The next question was, how is the Rustbelt College Fund going, and is there a link that people can go to if they want to donate to support that?
I will grab the link here for you guys, and it is going pretty well. After I was able to raffle off the Snap-on Ethos Edge scan tool, that put the scholarship fund up to $1,000 is what we're up to. So
a lot of people have been asking how they can donate, and I said, you're just going to have to ask him. I don't know how it works. He's got the link. We'll see if he can share it.
I got it too.
So let's get into what you're saying, Kyle. The scholarship thing you're doing and stuff for the people, and going back to what you're saying about the trucks, them holding that customer appreciation day, your Snap-on guy doing that, that's cool. That's rolling with the times. That's staying with what's hot on there and having every, that one-on-one relationship with the consumer, or whatever, as Dow would say, the prosumer. But, you gotta do things like that to show gratitude and hey, because we're the people that keep those guys in business. The people that buy the tools off them, we keep them going every day. So for them to do a customer appreciation days, or when I do sales at the shop, grill some hot dogs outside, whatever it is, it gets people in the door. Everybody wins. So, your Snap-on guy, he didn't just do it for you guys. He did it for himself. He sold around a toolbox that day. I'm sure you bought some tools. Other guys buy tools. So everybody's happy there. I mean, it's a win-win for everybody.
The first time that I ever actually heard the term prosumer was on the Den of Tools, and it made more sense than anything else that I'd ever heard before, because I was like, well, I'm a consumer. I purchase tools all the time from various people. But I didn't really actually think about it in terms of the way that he explained it as the prosumer being like the professional mechanic or technician. I was like, well, that makes more sense, because there are certain things that you, myself, a shop owner like yourself, Jim, that we would buy, and we're willing to spend a certain amount of extra money to go towards a better quality product. So for that realm, I agree with the term prosumer, and it just made more sense. So that's when I started using it. I was like, well, it makes sense for me as a prosumer, as a person that it's in the industry using and abusing tools every single day, to say that, well, is it a professional grade? Well, how else would you know unless you try it? So that's why I like trying various tools. There was a question earlier you guys were talking about. I think Jim actually said he would like to have everything in one manufacturer, just so he doesn't have to have everything spread out, right? Like Snap-on mostly, or whatever your flavor is. That's the one thing that you really search for and you try to upgrade to and make a complete set of that one specific product line. For people such as myself at the independent shop, where I no longer have a Snap-on rep. Now, I love Snap-on tools. I love Cornwell. I've got a lot of loves for different companies, but it's not feasible for me to just stick with one because they go in and out of business so often. It makes it too hard for me to justify spending when I can't warranty. So I'm a mixed mutt. You ever seen that mixed mutt dog where you can't tell if it's a fucking Dalmatian or a German Shepherd? That's me, bro. I'll buy whatever is available at the time, as long as I can take it in and out of the store and warranty it out, and it works for the job that I needed it for, cool. If I can adapt it and grind the crap out of it, cut part of it off, drill it out, and I only had to spend 10 or 20 bucks on it, I'm happy with that. It's a little bit harder for me to take a socket that I spent 50 bucks on from Snap-on and drill it out versus taking something that I spent 10 bucks on from, say, like, I don't know, Sears or Husky and drill it out. You know what I mean? There's a big difference there. Like, it's like, oh, I can put $1 in this machine. Maybe we win a stuffed animal for my daughter. Maybe we don't. Once you get to about $5, you're like, fuck that, we're going to Walmart. Like, that's exactly what happens.
I totally agree with that one. Everybody's got those custom tools. I've got one of those 22 millimeter wrenches for the newer Rams to get the rear shocks off. It sits up on top of the frame rail where I take this 22. I literally heat it up, and that thing's got a 90-degree bend on it right there just to be able to get to that one nut. And I couldn't do that with a Snap-on, just because of the sheer amount that I paid for it. I couldn't bring myself to do it. So I bought a $3.50 one from Tractor Supply.
Outside of that, let's think of the metal that they go into making these tools out of. So you talk about cheaper metals versus expensive metals. It is a lot harder to bend an expensive metal or tweak or cut or grind or weld an expensive metal than it is a cheaper one. Let's face it, the cheap ones were made for customization. Am I right?
Mm-hmm. That's very true. It makes it a lot easier to do it. I've seen guys try to bend over a Snap-on wrench before. It's not an easy task.
It's not an easy task. No,
the chroming is going to be gone on it before it starts to bend at all. Even with a torch on it, there are a lot more denser materials that they're getting sold for them.
And I found a newfound respect for Pittsburgh. Did you see that Pittsburgh concept ratchet video I did?
Yeah. That
metal was freaking tough, man. I did not, and I did spray. Now someone's like, "Where's your penetrating oil?" It was an edited video, okay? I sprayed WD-40 at it. I sprayed WD-40. It did not help. And now that might not be the go-to fluid for it, but that's what I used was WD-40. And let me tell you, that still was very difficult to cut through. I think I burnt up through a few bits. Yeah.
I remember you trying to drill out that head the first time. You're like, all right, I'm going to hold this thing with my hand. I'm like, oh, this is going to be good.
Hey, that's hotter and hotter. So I grabbed gloves. They're like, you're an idiot. Don't use gloves. I'm like, man, it's hot.
And then it snaps around and smacks you in the arm.
Oh, that was just a whole load of fun.
So Dar, are you actually using that thing? You use it out, you bring it to work?
I have it here at the house. I have not used it at work yet. It was, like I said, it was a concept ratchet. It was made to be the idea behind it was to show people at Harbor Freight how easy it would be to make something like this and how cost effective it would be to make a product like this and how it could hold up and benefit us as mechanics. I used it on a 115 foot-pound lug nut to see if it would break free, and it did. Could I take it to work, use it, and abuse it and see if it held up? Sure. Is it? Does it make sense to do that? No, because I've already ruined the integrity of the metal and this, that, and the other. The idea behind it, though, was it's not hard to make something that Snap-on already has available. I bought my 25-inch or 26-inch Snap-on bare-handled, half-inch drive flex head ratchet from Snap-on for like $250. So this thing cost me less than $80 to make. I'm just saying it wouldn't take a whole lot for them to make something similar and still come in at a competitive cost, especially if they're trying to outshine Snap-on. That's all I'm saying. It would not take a lot of
in my personal opinion, when it comes to the ratchet game, Matco has stepped up their game 150% over the last year. I've gotten to the point where I started buying some Matco wrenches, A, because of the feel of them, just the different on the padded handles, and B, because of the thin size of the heads of them. They're 20% thinner, depth-wise than any other ratchet on the market right now. And it made a huge difference, especially when working on my Duramax. There's a couple of spots where there was no way I was getting a full-size ratchet in there. No way it was going to work at all.
Well, what do you guys think? If they made a strong enough, comparable enough ratchet with a comfort grip at an affordable price, wouldn't it be something that maybe an entry-level tech should be considering or at least looking at before they decided to step it up to something that costs them an arm and a leg, essentially? Because that's what it's all about right now, right? Saving money.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always a proponent of, first off, not putting yourself into too much debt over what kind of tools that you're buying. It should be a pyramid, a step-up program to what kind of tools you're buying. You need to start off with the ones that are lower line, cheaper level. Yes, there's some of them that you can buy if you have the student SCP program. You're getting 50% off tools anyways. Then, whatever if you can afford it, go ahead and do it. But if you're not having those kind of programs, I start off with some of the smaller ones. Use those, at least put a couple of months into them, see how you like them, how well they work efficiency wise with the kind of job that you're doing. It may be totally different from aeronautics to working on cars. It may be totally different. And then at the point where you start seeing the differences in efficiency, or you start breaking the tools. If I break that tool once, twice, 3 times, especially if it gets to 3 times down the road, then all right, it's time to then upgrade that tool to the next one up. And if those smaller tool companies are able to bring out some of those tools that won't break, then you're into the right portion of the market. There's some of those tools that I personally use in automotive that it doesn't matter how many times I use them, because I don't use them that often. They're not going to break. It doesn't matter what manufacturer they are. I've got a set of Harbor Freight. They're the curved hose clamp style long pliers to be able to get hoses off heater tubes and stuff like that. I bought those from Harbor Freight 9 years ago. They've never broken. They still sit in my toolbox. I still use them. There's some of those tools that if they made them good enough, they're not going to be the ones that are breaking down the road. They're going to be worth actually doing that.
Another thing that I think that people need to take into consideration, and not just people in general, but let's talk about the entry-level tech. I've seen a lot of entry-level techs fresh out of college, or maybe they have never gone to college. They're fresh off the block from Walmart or Jiffy Lube that step into this industry. And within 12 months, techs come and go. They're not sure they actually want to do it anymore. They start redeciding their life and what it is they want to do, so they bounce out. So what happens when you sink yourself in a debt on the tool truck, but you've only been doing it for 6 months to a year? Shouldn't you start off with a cheaper platform first to see if you're even going to like being a mechanic or a technician Because I've had a lot of guys go, man, that sucks. I don't like being bent over. Cars fucking smell. I'm always covered in shit. Things are too hard. I'm not understanding what I'm working on. They get pissed off and they quit, or they get fired for something stupid. I had some guys come in, swear to God, no, go inside, baby. They kept, okay, thank you, baby. I love you. They kept running into cars. They had brand new cars. They would ram into somebody. I'm like, what the fuck were you doing? They're like, I thought I set the parking brake. And I'm like, really? And they would bust up like these brand new cars. We'd have to give the customer a brand new car when they came in to buy a brand new car. And I was like, they only got 3,000 miles on it, and you just smashed the crap out of it into somebody else's car. So now we got to pay for 2 different cars, or one to be fixed because you didn't know how to drive. So you don't know what's going to happen. I would say at least give yourself 12 to 24 months. See if you even like being in the industry first, right? Mm-hmm. Before just diving on in and be like, okay, I'm in it to win it. I love this job. I love what I do. I'm going to step it up. You need to give yourself some time to actually know if you are. You might not like the hustle and bustle, because at the dealership, it's way different than the independent shop. Dealership is push, 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 go, go, go. Independent shop, a little bit more laid back, but when it starts getting closer to the end of the month, oh, there's push times too, because you still got to pay the bills. You still got your tax to pay. You still got taxes. Things happen. It's the nature of the beast. This mechanic thing is not for everybody. That's all I'm getting at. Your guys' thoughts.
And that's where this thing comes into play, YouTube. You've got us guys who are in the industry able to put out our personal experiences, both with working in the shops, working in the different environments, going back and forth, showing you all the experiences that we went through, as well as the purchasing of tools. You know, all the tool reviews that we do on here, all of us do amazing tool reviews, and we give you the honest truth and the side of them where you're going to either want to buy them, or it may be something that's not right for you. A lot of the reviews that I do on a lot of these tools, I've done reviews on tools where I've said it right in the review. I'm like, hey, this is a good tool. It works. It's actually not going to make it into my toolbox. I'm going to end up giving it back because it's not something that's going to help my efficiency here. Those kind of videos are the ones that these newer technicians really need to be looking into, for not just the tools, but for the experience on getting into the game and understanding what the game is before you even get started into it. So you're not blindsided a year down the road for going in through and doing any of that. And to answer some of the questions about the brushless and half-inch cordless things that come through, yes, I picked up the new Snapon one, and I will be doing a review between 3 of the newest brushless cordless half-inch impacts on the market here within the next 2 weeks or so. I've been using 3 different new ones for about 3 or 4 weeks, and I really wanted to get them actually used in the shop, you know, talking about doing reviews on tools and not just doing, oh yeah, this is what they look like, but actually showing, you know, some use out of them.
Hey, can I pay you for a positive review of your stuff?
Yeah, that's been a big thing lately, man.
So yeah, bringing up that, and you know, obviously tech's got to be cut out to do this industry, and yeah, you know, if you think you want to be a chef, you know, don't try being a mechanic first and spend all your money on Snap-on tools and get yourself in debt. But I mean, you know, like the tools that you buy, you know, obviously, you know, if you're buying something, tools got to get the job done. But if you're buying something that you don't like, there's always other options out there. You know, like Kyle said, we review these tools. Most of the tools that I review, I give you other options too. Like, hey, there's this tool here, but there's also these you could get, or compare it to a Snap-on tool to see what the difference is, what will work for you, what won't work for you, however it is, you know. But getting to it, I got to bring it up. I mean, you know, Dow with I got to bring up Icon. I got to, and I mean, what if I was sitting here to say, you know, I don't think Icon's price is right at all, and everybody's saying it's going to change. I mean, change my mind. I mean, that's all I could say. I like any tool that gets the job done, but I mean, I think I've heard enough about Icon. I've seen enough of Icon. I don't ever think I'll buy it. I don't know. It's not like I'm going to go to Harbor Freight and buy it, only because I don't need it. I'm not going to say it's a good brand or a bad brand, but I mean, you got to have that distinctive. The price isn't there for that tool line. It's just not there. So, I mean, it's changed my mind. That's all I'd have to say.
Well,
any tool brand.
I think it's really all in the eye of the beholder. I mean, right now these tools have just barely started to come out. A lot of the stores have not actually released the products as of yet. There are some stores that have. We've seen recent studies. I mean, I've done my own. There are some other stores like today, when I actually got the message the other night from Dylan, and he had an issue, and I thought it was a very valid issue where you're trying to remove a valve cover stud and you can't get through the fluting on the socket, and you need to have a 1/4 inch in that specific scenario. I think it was a very valid point to bring up, and people had asked me, well, if there was, you know, a fault in the tool, would you actually show it? Absolutely. Why wouldn't I? It doesn't benefit me one way or the other to either A, show it, or B, not show it. For me, it's all about the quality of the product and for what it is that you guys are looking for. Now, you don't have to take my word for it. You don't have to invest in the product if you don't want to. It's like anything else. Look, man, are they coming out with a phenomenal toolbox? Yeah, I think it looks great. I think it's made of heavy-duty gauge, thick gauge steel. Is it something that I think you should run and dive on? No, of course not. When I started off at the dealership, I started off with that 4-drawer black, gloss black Harbor Freight card that no one liked. Then I moved my way to a DeWalt toolbox, and then I'm paying like $250, $300 for that thing from Home Depot. Then when I actually had enough money and I'd been at the job for over 2 years, I decided to jump on the Cornwell Pro Series 56-inch. And I started running the faults with that, and I was like, maybe that was $4,000 poorly spent. And I started missing the KRL that I sold years ago. And I was like, maybe that was a mistake. But at the time, it was the best thing that I could do to improve the quality of living for me and my family. Everyone's going to run through their ins and outs. It doesn't matter if you're buying from Snapon, Matco, Cornwell, you buy from Icon or Harbor Freight in general, or if you go to Home Depot. Guys, a box is a box, right? We can all agree on that. It's there to store your tools. It depends on the manner that you're trying to store them. When I was at the dealership, I had to lock my box all the time because tools would just walk away. Same thing at Sears. My tools would just walk away. At the independent shop, my tools don't walk away. I haven't locked my box in over 2.5 years. It's been unlocked every single day at my independent shop. I trust everybody there with my life and that of my kids. We have birthdays together. We celebrate things together. We barbecue together. It's the perfect environment for me, so I have no need to lock it. So does the tumbling system on the lock mean anything to me now? No. If I had to go back to a dealership, yeah, the tumbling system is probably going to matter, and being able to lock my toolbox at the end of the evening is probably going to make a big difference. That's just my 2 cents worth on that. Do I care who you buy from? No. Buy what's convenient for you, what you can afford. If you think that it's more beneficial for you to buy something from Harbor Freight than, say, Snap-on, go for it. If you think it's more beneficial to start off with something like Husky, because Husky has come out with some nice-ass boxes that also hold up, that are made of some pretty good metal. I would buy a Husky toolbox all day over the new Craftsman Made in USA ones. I still think their metal is cheap and janky, and I have one back here in the corner. And if I want to warranty out the things that are broken on it, guess what? There's no warranty. I have to pay $400 to fix the drawers that are broken and the glides that are broken. It's not worth that. I almost gave that box away for free. It's in the corner. It's a bench top. That's all it is. At one point in time, I'll probably throw that away or give it away for free off Craigslist. It means nothing to me anymore. The only sentimental value that I have behind it is it was the first toolbox that I ever had. And when it was too topside heavy, the box itself was too narrow, it tipped over. I have a story behind it. That's about it. It tipped over, all my sockets and tools were all over the floor. That's why I like deeper, wider toolboxes, because they're a lot better made than these ones that are super narrow, super skinny, and you hope for the best to start putting some serious weight in it, right?
Right, and that's the difference in, like Jim was saying, you know, where you are at, both in, you know, whether you're working at that independent shop or whether you're working at the dealership. You know, there's sometimes to where, you know, you wouldn't think you need like those Echo locks when you own your own shop or anything. But when I'm in a shop with, you know, 4 other guys, plus there's detail guys walking through wanting to borrow tools all the time, it's just convenient for me to have the Echo locks and just hit the lock all of a sudden right there.
Beep, beep.
And being able to handle that one, you know, it's you know, just a personal, you know, preference there. But like, I wanted to ask Ron with that, you know, in regards to that one, when you've bought your toolbox and everything starting off, at what different levels did you see yourself moving forward? How many of these reviews did you use in going forward and buying those things as compared to, you know, like what you would see off of the Harbor Freight, or those kind of series?
I mean, I've watched several people do reviews over some products. luckily, I've had one main person I've been able to get a lot of my reviews and hands-on trying of, and that's this guy right here. But I mean, I will, if I'm looking into getting something specific, or if I'm wanting to find, and this goes for not even tools, but goes for anything, I lean on YouTube a lot for reviews.
Who's playing the garbage can?
When you watch the reviews, what specifically are you looking for? For me specifically, I try my best to use it in real world testing. There are some people that use it in a vise. There are some people that show and go on a workbench. What's your flavor when it comes to a tool review when you're looking for something specifically on YouTube as an automotive technician?
When I'm looking for something on those qualifications, I want to see. For one, I don't really want to see the tool be clean. I mean, I want to see them. I want to see it being used. I want to see that they've actually used it. I don't want to see. Like we've talked before about, these people are getting paid for these perfect reviews, and they're like, I got the brand new blah 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 blah, and it's like it's never seen an impact in its life, or it's never seen a socket in its life. It's never seen a bit of rust or grease on it at all. You get these people who and I'm not bashing on anybody in particular. I
got so much grief from people for using a chrome socket on an impact, but I was like, realistically, how many of us have done it?
Dude,
everybody does.
I got too much grief for doing a toolbox video in sandals. So I don't want to hear it.
I mean, the thing that I don't like is, these guys, whatever. I don't want to throw anybody a bus, but I don't care for a guy doing a review on mechanics tools, and he's a 100% YouTuber. He's not a mechanic. I want to see these tools used by guys like Justin Dow, used by guys like Kyle or Ron or anybody, out there really for real, not guys that do YouTube, 100% of the time. And they used to work for the field, in the field 20 years ago,
Can I see her in the background?
It's a princess.
They're having a boxing match behind you.
Kids are behind you.
Zoe, I haven't seen you, Kyle.
So personally, when I look into seeing reviews from other people, I like to be the one doing the reviews, but that's just my personal preference. I like to see people who have done reviews and have looked at the tools and worked with the tools for at least 2 weeks, maybe even a month. I don't like to do any kind of reviews, especially tool reviews, unless I've used it in a shop atmosphere for a week, 2 weeks, a month, something like that down the line. I don't like seeing tool reviews unless they've had extended in shop use. That's my personal take on that one.
Sorry, Kyle, I'm just distracted. They're making little cute faces in the background.
I know.
And I mean, I'm the same way as Kyle. I mean, if I'm going to do a review on a tool, or if I'm going to do a review of a product, I'm going to put it through its paces just as much as everybody else. I mean, I'm kind of following the same pattern as other people. Is like, if you're going to review a product, you need to give an honest and true opinion of that product. If it's great, tell them it's great. If it sucks, tell them it sucks. If it has pros and cons, list those out too.
I agree with that, Straight Sex Fan. When you're doing those instant reaction review, when you are doing, I guess, an unboxing video, you got to see your initial review on it. As long as you do some kind of a follow-up with hands-on function with the tool, and as well as a down the road video, that's always nice to see too. You're like, all right, I've used the tool for a month. This is how it's been working. All right, I've used the tool for 3 months. This is how it's been working, or I broke it this many times, and I've really been putting it through its paces. Every once in a while, I like to see like the broken tool videos where people use the tools until they snap and push them to the limits, so I know what the limits are going to be. But at those points, you're seeing guys that are like, oh, these are how everybody actually uses them day-to-day uses. We're going to see how many functions this ratchet has as a hammer, because you're going to beat on something with it. So
I've used a ratchet wrench a time or two to smack on things. I've used a socket to smack on things. I'm pretty hard on my tools.
Well, I know one thing. I mean, a company can't pay me enough money to tell people that the tool's good if it's garbage. They send me all the stuff they want or whatever. If it's garbage, you could still pay me, but I'm going to tell them that it's garbage.
Yep, I totally exactly get that one. And I've actually had that a lot lately where a company will say, hey, we want to do this review with you. We want to send you this tool. And we just want to know what your rate is for doing a good review. And I'm like, rate on good review? Like, they've actually been able to do that before with other reviews on channels to where they can just pay a certain amount and somebody's going to do a review and it's going to be a good review because they've paid for it. I'm like, no, that's not how this whole review system works. I will take your tool and I'm going to use it in everyday shop practice. I'll do that review, and because you were cool enough to send me a tool for free, usually I'm not going to do an instant bashing on it if it's crap. I will get back to you and give you a chance to write what it was either wrong or the fact that your tool was crap and maybe you came out with something newer or better than that one. I'll give that company the chance to be able to write that before I put out a review, but I'm never going to put out a review video that was, just a BS. Oh yeah, they paid me $150 to do this thing and give them a awesome review. No, that's not how it goes, but more and more companies are trying it way more often now.
I think it really comes down to two different styles of video. One would be initial, first glance, first look, first testing, first hands-on experience. The second one, obviously, going to be longevity. And I myself, my daughter's grown up so fast, I don't want to speed the clock up a year to tell you guys how good it's going to hold up over a year. When that time comes from, yes, I will then do a video review a year from now and say, okay, a year later, here we are. I don't think that it's practical to say, well, here's a 3-month, 6-month, etc. If it breaks within that year, absolutely. Here's what broke. Here are the circumstances that I was using it when it broke. This is what I was doing, and this is the end result. This is how the warranty process went, and this is how long it took me to receive the replacement product if I have to wait for it via mail. You know what I mean?
Yep, I totally get that one. Especially when it comes to those warranty things, and when we were talking about earlier with the tool trucks, getting those warranty things fulfilled by the tool truck driver, that's the hardest thing that's able to I guess portray on a YouTube video is the quality of warranty that my Snap-on guy has, because not everybody has that great of a Snap-on guy to be able to warranty these things out, when you probably shouldn't have been. You hand in one of those lady fingers that has a 90-degree bend over to it. You probably weren't using it in the best way possible or how the tool should have been used. But you know what? You've been a good customer and everything. What's a $30 tool? Yeah, I'll warranty that one out and handle it for you. That's the point of having that personal connection with somebody who you're actually sales team with.
I also really appreciate the upfront information ahead of time, especially when my gear wrench rep Jeff, when he goes to these tool shows, he goes, is there anything in particular you'd like me to look at? I would just tell him the same thing usually every year. I'm like, Jeff, just find something that's so freaking cool, so freaking innovative that no one's ever seen before, and get one for me. And he's like, okay. I love that part of it,
Just wrench it. I'm going to say that it's the exact same. I've been offered tools and items, and there's been things that I haven't done a review on that was a $5,000 or $6,000 item. I've sent it back to them because there was an issue with it, or there was something I didn't like about it, or I just didn't do the review video on it, and I told them why, and they totally understood that because we had that agreement ahead of time. Hey, this isn't a guaranteed good review video. This is what it's going to happen.
Yeah.
I get some weird requests for tool reviews. I had in this, what's the doctor thing? It's the stethoscope.
Yep.
I had one company reach out to me and said, we would like to send you our stethoscope for you to try out. I'm like, I'm not a fucking doctor, man. Well, I guess I'm a car doctor. Yeah, I use a stethoscope, but I'm not going to use it in the manner that you want it to be used in. I don't understand it. So I just left it alone.
So I've actually had companies I've actually told companies no on some of their tools. You know, they obviously send you what the tool is, you know, before you agree to something. I tell them exactly how it's going to be laid out. I tell them how long the video may take, you know, after I receive it, after I test it, after I go through it. And I've turned down a lot of them. But yeah, now I get a lot, you know, especially in the beginning, I got stuff for like carpenter's tools. I mean, LED lights galore. You can't, you know, you can only do so much, but I like to keep it relevant to the channel and to mechanics or techs or someone that uses a tool or a cool product, feature a cool product, because obviously my channel is also modding things and things like that. But I probably, out of the whole month, I probably get maybe 10 or 11 offers, and out of half of that, I pretty much turn them down. You know, or I just don't respond to their email politely, you know, and whether it's not a good enough tool. I read some of the reviews. I know the tool. I've seen the tool. I've seen other YouTubers review the tool, and I just know it's just not for me. It's not going to be a good review, so I don't care for them to set. And I don't care the cost of the tool. It can be $200, $300, $1,000, $500. It doesn't even matter. I don't care what the cost of the tool is. I'm not going to review it if I don't think it's any good.
I think it's the type of tool for me, really, because I do like doing some at-home DIY repair stuff. My YouTube channel is not just a strictly automotive channel. It's my channel. I do whatever the hell I want to do on it. But there's been some weird tools that I've been offered to review. Like someone wanted to send me this weird pin that would shatter glass if you smacked it. I'm like, I'm not going to go out of my way to go to a wrecking yard and smack glass with your tool. That doesn't make any sense. I don't even know what the hell it's for. I get the functionality behind it, but I've never had to use that since I was overseas. When I was overseas, yes, that would make sense. I'm here on the stateside. No one's trying to shoot at me or blow me up. I don't have any kind of immediate need to deal with a window shatter. You know, it just doesn't make any sense to me. So I let it go.
I must be the odd duck out because I contact companies all the time, and I think I've got like 3 people to send me stuff.
In truth, I have never reached out to any company. That's in truth. I've had companies reach out to me. I've never reached out to them. I like going to the store instead. I want to feel it, see it, touch it, whatever first. I've never actually reached out to a company. Some people said you could reach out to so-and-so and see what they can do for you. I'm like, why? I mean, I don't even know if that's going to be any good. Shouldn't I just go look at it first? I mean,
now that I think about it, it's been kind of the same thing with me, especially when it's come to tools. I don't remember, but maybe one time reaching out to a tool company. It's just one of those things where I don't feel comfortable in doing it. I'd rather go to the actual tool, look at it, see it, because it's going to be something that I want to have in my box and to actually want to review, rather than, oh, it might be something cool, but it's going to get views. No, this is like my job is priority, you know, over
Right.
YouTube. YouTube is awesome. You guys are great, but that's not what brings home the money.
it's a hobby. It's a hobby at best.
So the only time I'd have to say the only tool companies that, you know, I've ever reached out is obviously not for the YouTube channel or me. It was be for ToolHeads. And Kyle, I know you've reached out to tool companies too. But I mean, for someone like Ron, Ron, you just hit 1,000. I guarantee you're going to get all those tool companies coming at you. I've told you before. You're gonna be having ones that you're gonna turn down, just like everybody else out there. It's gonna get tedious, man. You just got to put, like Junk would say, you know, we're all surprised. We're congratulating you on hitting 1,000, but uploading 1 video a month, you know, if you prioritize YouTube a little bit more, if you want those tools sent to you, I guarantee I'll send you them, man. I'll revert them to you because I get the emails all the time, and they're there. We need guys like Ron to review these tools too, though. Like the tools that Dow, you're not interested in, I'm not interested in, Kyle. Ron would be the perfect guy to review those tools for us. And
I will tell you, there was one thing that I thought might be kind of cool. There was one weird robotic company that saw one of the RC car build videos that I did, and I haven't done one in months. I still have to go to Section C now to do the shocks on the RC car build that I want to do. They're like, hey, would you like to try our new robot car? I'm like, actually, that might be kind of cool for the kids. So when the kids come into play, I'm like, well, that's a toy, and I don't have to pay for it, and that could be interactive between me and them. Yeah, send it, get it coming. We'll fuck around with it. Sure, why not?
Yep, I agree. Now, when it comes to some other things on my channel, like especially the build options, you know, for the dealership, for my truck and all, that on that aspect of it, I reach out to companies a lot more often because when they look at my channel primarily, it's more of like a tool and review channel, but then they see the truck that we're doing builds on and everything. They're a little bit more receptive to it, but they're not. Those kind of companies aren't looking at YouTube yet for reaching out for a lot of these reviews like the tool companies are. Tool companies, they're a little bit more receptive to trying to get their products and their name out a little bit more often than other, just a little bit manufacturers in the business.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I'd have to say though, as far as reviewing the tools and all that stuff though, these companies, it gets redundant. I mean, some of the stuff that they want us to review or want to send us, or you get the ones where they want to send you a tool and they want you to pay for it, and then they'll pay you back after you do a review on it. That to me just sounds like they're you know what I mean? Like, come on, make a good tool. One or two guys out there review it. People will see that it's a good tool. If it's a good tool, it'll sell. You don't have to push, cram these tools down people's throats that, some of these tool brands, I can't even pronounce the name of them. You don't even know what they are. It's,
Exactly. And to the point of doing those tool reviews, the guys that are here watching these tool reviews and everything from us, they're not dumb guys. These tools, they're getting more expensive. More and more expensive every single year. The cost of living is going up. The cost of these tools, boxes, everything is going up. So what they're spending their money on, it has to go and it has to feel like they're getting their values worth a lot more. So they're doing more of their own research when it comes to purchasing these larger items or even the smaller items with tools, because they have to make their dollars stretch and go a little bit farther to be able to get their job done. In the automotive field, us having to pay for these tools in the first place is already a stress on having to get our careers up and rolling. So they've got to make their dollars go a little bit farther. They're using these, tool channels to be able to say, okay, that's actually how it's used. It's going to hold up. It's going to be worth my money. And that's what I'm going to use that for. I think that's what they really need.
See, now here's the other thing too. I wanted to interject here and share with a little tidbit of information, because I know a lot of guys, they have this in question. They want to know, like, how real is the real? I had a scan tool that was sent to me. You guys remember that? The first one was stolen. The second one I actually received. I used it on a few different videos during that process, and then by I think it was week 2 that I started using it. I started running the issues, and that's when I decided to do the video, the worst scan tool to ever buy, and I posted the video. I'll tell you what, that scan tool was sent to me twice over by CN Launch to test out and try out and see what I thought. And the second version that I got was absolute garbage. As a result, they haven't talked to me since. So how real is real? It's as real as it can possibly get, gentlemen. Okay, if the tool works, it works. If it fails and I'm using it, you know what? The first couple of videos might go okay, but I guarantee you at some point in time, we're going to push this thing to the limit, and we're going to find out the real world situation and just how good or bad it actually is. And that is the real deal.
Yeah, that was cool how you did that, Dal, because I remember that was right around the time that Launch contacted me. But there's two launch companies. There's Launch USA, and then there's stuff directly from China. And you got to watch out that the Amazon dropshippers that you get that stuff off of. Some of that stuff's just a knockoff software. You know what I mean? It's not actual Launch products, or to their support. You call them back, tell them you have an issue with it. There's no support. So you doing what you did is totally right. You got to make sure, just because it's a name brand, like Power Probe contacted me, and then, there's other brands of Power Probe too. You got to make sure you're getting it from known vendors, known good people, actual companies, and for you to do that was really cool, letting people know that was probably one of the companies with no support as far as Launch goes.
Right.
Yep. Exactly.
So that's as real as I can make it, gentlemen. I mean, if I get a product and it holds up, I'm going to tell you guys. If it doesn't hold up, I'm going to tell you guys. It's just the nature of the beast. There are certain situations that I'm going to find myself in where the tool works. There's going to be certain situations that somebody else runs into where it doesn't work. So good, bad, and in between, I'm going to share it if I think that it's actually a suitable video to actually post. I mean, I want to share with you guys what the real world life is. If somebody says, there was this one comment that I had got. I said, well, the gapping on the selector switch for the ratchet got caught in the wiring harness. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, there's no fucking way. Like most wiring harnesses have conduit, and even if you did have exposure to the wire, the gauge thickness between 14 and 12 gauge or 18 gauge, there's no way that any one wire got caught between your selector switch on your icon ratchet. This is bullshit. So you kind of got to feed through some of it from time to time, because people will make far out there accusations about it. I'm like, you really got to kind of pick through and skim through what's real and what's not. It was a real issue when Dylan had said, hey man, I was using a 1/4-inch socket. I wanted to try to remove this valve cover, and I had a little bit of issue with the fluting. Perfect. That makes sense to me. You know,
I've actually ran into that problem with the fluting on lots of socket brands. It's, you know, even the way Snapon makes some of them, you know, if it's got a different head on there, if it's one of those fasteners that hold another fastener on there, you might run into issues with the fluting on there. You know, the shaft is more, or even if you use those stand-up trays, sometimes they don't even flute. It's not big enough for the, you know, the tray to fit down in there. I've ran into that with a lot of tool brands.
Or when you're doing glow plugs on those diesels, you can't fit that center.
It has to fit through, right?
I can't use the Snap-on socket for like Duramax glow plugs. I can't use one. I have to use the cheaper, the Blue Point one, or a Craftsman socket, or one of the only ones that the center of a glow plug will fit through.
Now, I've never heard of the wiring harness being trapped in between the selector switch, though. That was new to me.
Yeah.
Now, I have seen certain situations, like especially on the Ford 6-liters, where I go to use a socket. Like I bought a Husky 1/2-inch 12-point shallow socket specifically for the new aftermarket bulletproof nuts to go on top of the studs. That did not work. But the Craftsman was just deep enough to where it did. So yeah, the broaching, the fluting, all that plays a role. And you're gonna have to play with it. I mean, there's no one be-all end-all tool. You're gonna have to play with it. That's part of the game, man. That's part of the hunt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that's why we do the reviews.
That's exactly right. Trying to get the good review and trying to find out what kind of tool is going to work for your specific situation. Well, guys, we've been on here for over 2 hours and 10 minutes now, rocking it tonight. I think we're going to come kind of wind it down, let everybody go through, let everyone here know what's going on in their channels over here in the next week. Dow's been plugging it. I'm going to plug it here again on my specific channel. I've got my Rustbelt Mechanic Scholarship Fund that I've got running right now up through this coming December. Taking donations in on this GoFundMe page for new techs that are starting into school at Sinclair Community College. Everybody knows I'm a big proponent for helping out new techs, giving them the biggest step up and the biggest foot into the door that they possibly can for tool costs, tuition costs, whatever it might be. This GoFundMe scholarship account is going to go towards the top 1 or 2 technicians that are in class and in a shop as well at Sinclair Community College. So that'll be going to them at the end of the first semester, which is this December. I'm going to be taking donations on there through then. So how about going over to Mr. Dow? What you got going on?
Not a whole bunch, man. You know, I'm looking forward to the scholarship fund for sure. Like I said in a previous live stream that I was in the other night, no one except for you nowadays, it's new because you just got done mentioning it not too long ago, but no one that I've run into on YouTube so far has ever supported further education more than myself until you came out with the scholarship fund. And I thought that was absolutely a nice and selfless thing for you to do, and I couldn't agree or support it more. Like that is a phenomenal idea that you have going on, and I absolutely support it. I have always supported further education. I think that for any mechanic or technician that's getting into the industry, it is very crucial to get further education, because you can't just walk into any random shop and expect that you know how to box. I mean, it's like on that Fast and Furious segment, man. You got to have some kind of training behind you if you want to play with the big dogs. If you want to make good money, if you want to know the ins and outs of most of the components that are involved in a vehicle and in manufacturing or mechanical atmosphere, you got to get your work in. You got to put in the work to get there. Oh, that's what I got for this one.
Sweet. Yeah, Rustbelt, you rock with that, man. I really, that's, you know, for you to even have the chance to be able to offer that to people, you know, I mean, that's awesome. I do that in a heartbeat. I mean, whoever wins that I hope they take it and run with it. They take that chance to get what they have, you know what I mean? And they actually use something to their full potential and not, end up dropping out or not being in it 100%. Like some of the techs that we've talked about tonight. You got to know what you want, but what you put in is what you're going to get out of it. If you want to make any type of real money, you have to have it all in. And to get a break like that for what you're giving these guys, I mean, it's, I would definitely take that and run with it. It's a great head start for, some guys wanting to get in the industry.
I'm thinking of it from a shop owning standpoint. JRC owns his own shop. He had to go, at some point, he had to go through schooling to learn the business side of it, I'm sure. Am I right or am I incorrect?
Yeah, I did trade school and college to get, but it was a long road for me. I really.
What items did you actually appreciate during your going through school? What items did you actually appreciate learning when it came to being your own business owner in the industry?
I mean, schooling was great for me. I did pretty decent in school. I even graduated high school early. But it wasn't the schooling that did it for me. I think it was more or less the hands-on. After I finished school, I was working in a shop already as an apprentice and all that. And then I started to notice day by day more and more that I was knowing more. Because of the schooling, I was knowing more what to look for than the next guy. And I think that's what it had a calling for me. And then I noticed I started getting good at it, and that's what kept me into it. Did I like doing it? Yes. But, for me, I became a mechanic more or less because, I was poor. I didn't, when I wanted to drive, I couldn't send my car to a shop. I had to learn how to fix it myself, so I was pushed into it by my dad, but yet I stayed with it because of myself.
One thing that I would like to ask, you don't have to explain it on the live stream. In fact, it might even be more beneficial if you did it in a video. I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions as of anything that you ran into along the way, building yourself up to an independent shop owner, of things that you wish you would have learned early on versus the things that you ran into later on where you're like, man, if I only knew this ahead of time, I could have changed this and it would have been for the better. It would be really cool to hear your thoughts and opinions on things that you would have changed during the process of opening your own shop and things that you ran into that were hiccups or glitches along the way.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I ran into, I still learn as I go, you know what I mean? But that's, the whole reason why I do those business side videos. We'll probably get there sooner or later on the video.
Those are my favorite, just so you know. I love watching those.
It's cool. And I try to put some thought into them. I try to do things that, like the unexpected videos, like what the one I'm working on now is, the cost we have to sit on in order to operate the business. And the amount of checks that I have to write holding stock or, just all that stuff in general. I'm trying to get it all into one, but, things like that people don't think about if they want to start a business or, ready to move on to the next level. There's a lot that goes into it that I didn't think about, at the first, but I think the majority of it is obviously your attitude to this industry. If you're one of those guys that come in, it's like, man, my pay sucks and this sucks and I don't want to do it. You'll probably never get there unless you win the lottery or something like that. The attitude you have, like Kyle has, right, like you have doubt about it. The things you do at your shop, you got the attitude, you got what it takes. I mean, you're ready to just jump in. I was never scared of work. You do what it has to be done. Whether it's heavy line work or anything like that, you got to have that attitude. I mean, one day I was diagnosed in a car.
It's peaceful famine for sure.
Yeah. But what saw that for me, is the people I bought this business off of. I used to work for them, so they gave me that opportunity. It's not, I worked towards it, but it's not like, it's not like I built that shop from scratch. That shop was there. It wasn't a full running shop. It was a shop that was ran into the ground. But they gave me that opportunity because I was the guy that could handle it. Obviously, they weren't going to give it to the 15 other techs they had working for them because maybe they didn't have the attitude, maybe they didn't have the finances, maybe they didn't have the drive and the passion to back it up. It's all in what you put in it, that really got me there, But it will get there. We'll get around to one of those videos. I really like doing those business side videos. I really think they're cool. And I really like showing around the shop and then, having YouTube see me grow, when we get to when I buy the next shop and all that other stuff, just to show you guys out there that, it is possible. It is, it's out there. It's maybe not as fair as doing it in Illinois as to opposed to another state. It might be a little harder doing it here, but it's possible out there. And it's, it's just as good as being a mechanic. I get the best of both worlds, but, it gets pretty lucrative of running a successful shop at that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, definitely. But you, Captain, what you got going on?
Well, I was working on a video yesterday, and no, it wasn't yesterday, it was the day before, and I ran into a hiccup, so I've got to postpone said video for a little bit. was trying to do a head unit swap on my Duramax, and I need to get a new harness for the stereo side of it. So, got that video coming. I'll probably throw up another video at some point this week if I can think of something to do. And I'm probably going to try to do a live stream this weekend. I don't know who with. I don't know what time. So make sure to stay tuned for that. But other than that, I get to go play with a big ball of rust tomorrow.
That's right. You get to rock through some awesome rusty, crusty Liberty at the shop.
Yeah.
He's got a fun one for that one. Yeah. So everybody who is still in the chat, thank you for tuning in tonight. I really appreciate everybody who has been here. This has been a really awesome chat. If you have not subscribed already, make sure you go over here and subscribe to Mr. Dow's channel, subscribe to Mr. JRC54, as well as the Captain Ron. Make sure you guys get all subscribed to them. And thank you guys for tuning in and coming in on the channel tonight, Mr. Dow and Mr. Jim.
Thanks for having me.
Giving us your insights on tools, tool trucks, etc., giving us your professional responses to everything tonight. I appreciate you guys coming in.
Yes, sir. Anytime.
All righty, guys. Thank you again. As always, everybody, you guys always stay awesome.
Nah, you clicked the wrong button.
Cheers and deuces.
See you later.
Later, guys.